What if the traditional view of Azazel as a purely evil demon is a carefully constructed deception? The story you think you know may be incomplete, hiding a more complex and unsettling truth about this ancient figure. We will peel back the layers of myth to reveal a being who bestowed forbidden knowledge upon humanity, but at what devastating cost? This video delves into the enigmatic figure of Azazel, a being rooted in Jewish and Islamic traditions, often depicted as a fallen angel or jinn associated with forbidden knowledge and ancient rituals. However, Azazel's story transcends mere religious myth. It serves as a potent metaphor for humanity's insatiable thirst for understanding and the potential consequences of unchecked ambition. His influence extends far beyond ancient texts, continuing to captivate modern occultists, inspire literature, and shape contemporary interpretations of demonology. You'll uncover the specific knowledge Azazel is said to have imparted to humanity, challenging the widely accepted notion that it was inherently evil. Metallurgy, weapon-making, cosmetics, and the mastery of various arts were all gifts attributed to Azazel, knowledge that propelled civilization forward, yet simultaneously sowed the seeds of destruction. Stay tuned to learn of the true price of this knowledge, hinting at both the immediate and long-term repercussions. But could Azazel's actions actually be interpreted as an act of rebellion against a tyrannical or overly controlling divine authority, rather than a purely malevolent act? This video will deconstruct the traditional portrayal of Azazel as a purely malevolent entity, arguing that he is a complex figure whose actions, and the knowledge he imparted, yielded both positive and negative consequences for humanity. The central question we aim to answer is this: was Azazel truly a force of darkness or a catalyst for human evolution, and what does his story tell us about our own relationship with knowledge and power? Now, you might be thinking this is just another demon story, but the story of Azazel touches upon the very core of the human condition. We've all been tempted by forbidden knowledge at some point in our lives, whether it's a secret we shouldn't know, a path we were warned not to take, or a technology we don't fully understand. In a world where we are constantly pushing the boundaries of science and technology, the story of Azazel serves as a cautionary tale, reminding us of the potential consequences that accompany the pursuit of knowledge and power. So, let's begin to unravel the layers of this ancient mystery and explore the truth about Azazel. So, the story of Azazel is much more than just a demonic myth. It is a complex reflection of humanity's ongoing relationship with knowledge, innovation, and the inherent risks of transgression. Our focus now shifts from a general understanding of Azazel to a precise examination of the specific types of knowledge he is said to have imparted, and the immediate impact of that knowledge on the ancient world. We will move beyond surface-level demonology to truly grasp the deeper implications of Azazel's actions, hinting at the counterintuitive idea that perhaps the knowledge itself was not inherently evil, but rather humanity's misuse of it that unleashed negative outcomes. To truly understand Azazel, we must turn to the primary source that details his actions, the Book of Enoch. This ancient text, while not part of the canonical Hebrew Bible, holds a significant place within Jewish apocrypha and exerted considerable influence on later Jewish and Christian traditions, providing the most comprehensive account of Azazel's transgressions. The story unfolds in a pre-Diluvian Earth, a world where the boundaries between the divine and the mortal were blurred, and angels directly interacted with humanity, offering both guidance and, as we'll discover, dangerous temptations. It was within this perceived divine order that the Watchers, also known as the Grigori, angels tasked with observing humanity, defied their celestial mandate, falling from grace by interbreeding with humans and sharing knowledge that was expressly forbidden. We'll discover that their motivations, as described in the Book of Enoch, range from lust and curiosity to a more complex desire to elevate humanity, echoing similar narratives in other cultures, such as the Greek myths of Prometheus or the Titans, and Zoroastrian concepts of fallen spirits. Within the narrative of Azazel, forbidden knowledge is best understood as technologies and skills that were considered the exclusive domain of the divine and were now being offered to humanity. This includes a wide range of expertise, encompassing weaponry, cosmetics, metallurgy, astrology, and various magical practices. These skills were perceived as deeply disruptive to the natural order, a corruption of the innocent and idyllic state in which humanity supposedly existed before this illicit transfer of knowledge. Contrast this with the introduction of warfare and vanity, a stark departure from the perceived innocence of humanity's origins. But what we must also consider is that knowledge in itself is a neutral tool. Its potential for misuse lies squarely within the human element, the choices people make, and their sense of moral responsibility. Think of fire. It can provide warmth and cook food, but it can also be a destructive force, consuming everything in its path. Specific examples of the knowledge Azazel imparted are detailed in the Book of Enoch, shedding light on the profound shifts he initiated within early human society. Weaponry stands out prominently, and Azazel taught men to make swords and knives and shields and breastplates. This marked the introduction of violence and warfare, forever altering the dynamics of human interaction and leading to bloodshed and conflict on an unprecedented scale. Cosmetics also played a significant role, and he taught them to adorn themselves with bracelets and earrings and eyeshadow and rouge. This knowledge led to vanity, artificial beauty standards, and arguably the objectification of women, creating new forms of social inequality and fueling an obsession with outward appearance. Metallurgy, with its extraction and manipulation of metals, enabled technological advancement, but also opened the door to environmental exploitation, as humans began to extract minerals and precious metals to craft tools and ornaments for personal benefit, a far cry from existing in harmony with nature. Beyond these tangible skills, Azazel is also credited with introducing root cuttings, sorcery, and enchantments, opening humanity's eyes to alternative knowledge systems. But were Azazel's actions driven by a genuine desire to help humanity, or was he acting out of pride, rebellion, or some other, more selfish motive? Different interpretations abound. Was he a benevolent benefactor, seeking to uplift humanity and provide it with the tools for advancement? Or was he a misguided rebel, defying divine authority in a misguided attempt to challenge the established order? Or perhaps, a more sinister possibility, was he a purely malevolent tempter, seeking to corrupt humanity and lead it down a path of destruction? The significance of the specific knowledge Azazel imparted also warrants careful consideration. What does it tell us about human desires, values, and the very nature of progress? Does the focus on weaponry and adornment point to humanity's inherent aggression and vanity, or does it simply reflect our innate drive for self-improvement and self-expression? These questions have profound implications for our understanding of knowledge, power, and responsibility. Does the story of Azazel suggest that some knowledge is inherently dangerous, or that the danger lies solely in how we choose to use it? What we do know is that metallurgy and cosmetics would invariably lead to class and gender manipulation. So we see that Azazel's actions were a mixed bag, leading to both progress and significant problems. But what was the direct price Azazel paid for sharing this forbidden knowledge, and what does this tell us about the nature of divine justice? Was Azazel punished for his actions, and if so, what form did that punishment take? We'll delve into the various accounts of Azazel's fate, from being cast out of heaven to becoming a scapegoat for human sin, exploring both literal and symbolic interpretations of his ultimate destiny. However, it's important to acknowledge that not everyone agrees with this interpretation of Azazel's role. Some argue that Azazel was not acting independently, but rather fulfilling a divine plan, serving as a tool to test humanity's capacity for wisdom and responsibility, to determine whether we were ready for the gifts he provided. It's also worth considering the perspective that humanity was inherently flawed and would have inevitably succumbed to corruption, regardless of Azazel's actions. This perspective aligns with the concept of original sin and the inherent limitations of human nature. What if the Book of Enoch's portrayal of Azazel is actually a later distortion of an earlier, more positive figure? Could this be an example of historical revisionism, where figures who challenged established authority were demonized to discourage dissent? It's also possible that the knowledge imparted by Azazel is symbolic, representing a shift in human consciousness rather than literal technologies. Despite these counterarguments, the myth of Azazel remains a powerful reflection of humanity's complex relationship with knowledge and power. Even if Azazel was fulfilling a divine plan, his actions still had profound and lasting consequences for humanity. Ultimately, the story of Azazel serves as a cautionary tale, reminding us that knowledge is a double-edged sword, capable of both elevating and corrupting humanity. Azazel is neither purely evil nor purely good, but a complex figure who embodies the inherent contradictions of human existence. And perhaps the key question the myth of Azazel forces us to confront is whether humanity is truly capable of responsibly wielding the power that comes with knowledge. Now, with the knowledge imparted by Azazel reshaping human society, we turn to a far more unsettling aspect of his story: the direct consequences he faced for sharing forbidden knowledge. This is where our narrative takes a darker turn, moving from the gifts bestowed upon humanity to the price paid by their benefactor. We will delve into the traditional view of Azazel's punishment, meticulously examining its intricate connection to the ancient ritual of the scapegoat, a practice steeped in mystery and laden with profound symbolic weight. But consider this: is the conventional understanding of Azazel's fate one of simple banishment and eternal suffering truly the whole story? Or might there be a far more complex, even paradoxical, interpretation lurking beneath the surface? As we venture deeper, we will shift from a historical and analytical perspective to a more theological and symbolic one, exploring the enigmatic nature of sin, atonement, and the enduring legacy of Azazel. To fully grasp the significance of Azazel's punishment, we must first immerse ourselves in the historical context of the scapegoat ritual, a central practice in ancient Jewish tradition meticulously described in Leviticus 16. This ritual was intrinsically linked to Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, the most solemn day in the Jewish calendar. Yom Kippur served as a period of intense introspection, repentance, and atonement for the sins of the Israelites, a time when the community sought to cleanse itself of its transgressions and reconcile with the divine. Within this sacred context, the scapegoat ritual played a crucial role, acting as a symbolic mechanism for transferring the accumulated sins of the community onto a designated animal, thereby purging the community of its collective guilt. The ritual involved 2 goats, one meticulously selected to be sacrificed to God as atonement for sins, and the other chosen to serve as the scapegoat, destined to be sent into the desolate wilderness to Azazel. The selection process itself was imbued with deep symbolic meaning, the high priest carefully determining the fate of each goat, acting as an intermediary between the human and divine realms. The ritual process was both solemn and dramatic. With the community gathered in anticipation, the high priest would lay his hands upon the head of the scapegoat, confessing the sins of the Israelites, symbolically transferring their transgressions onto the animal. This physical act of transferring sins was believed to imbue the goat with the collective burden of the community's misdeeds. Once laden with sin, the scapegoat was driven into the wilderness, a desolate and uninhabited place far removed from the community. The destination of the goat was significant. It was sent to Azazel, a term that has been subject to varying interpretations throughout history. Some scholars view Azazel as the name of a place, a remote and desolate mountain or ravine in the wilderness. Others interpret Azazel as a demonic entity, a supernatural being residing in the wilderness, who would receive the goat and its burden of sin. And it's even been postulated that Azazel is nothing but an allegorical literary device. Regardless of the specific interpretation, the act of sending the goat to Azazel symbolized the banishment of sin and the purification of the community. But what exactly is scapegoating, and what deeper psychological and social mechanisms are at play within this ancient ritual? Scapegoating, in its essence, is a complex psychological and social phenomenon wherein blame and guilt are transferred from an individual or group onto another, often a marginalized or vulnerable member of society. This act of transference serves to alleviate the burden of responsibility and create a sense of unity and absolution within the community that projects its negative qualities onto the scapegoat. Consider how scapegoating can create a false sense of unity, as the community rallies together against a common enemy, temporarily setting aside internal conflicts and reinforcing its collective identity. This process of externalization, of projecting one's own faults and failings onto another, allows individuals and communities to avoid confronting their own shortcomings, maintaining a positive self-image and reinforcing existing power structures. The symbolic function of the scapegoat in the ritual is multifaceted. First and foremost, the scapegoat serves as a vessel for carrying away the accumulated sins of the community, a tangible representation of their collective transgressions. In this sense, the scapegoat is intrinsically linked to the broader concept of sacrifice and atonement, acting as a substitute for the community, bearing the weight of their sins and offering a path towards redemption. The goat's banishment into the wilderness can be seen as a symbolic death, a shedding of the old, sinful self, paving the way for a renewed and purified community. But where does Azazel factor into this symbolic equation? Who or what is Azazel in this context, and what role does he play in the drama of sin and redemption? One interpretation sees Azazel as a demonic entity, a malevolent being representing the forces of evil and chaos, residing in the desolate wilderness. In this view, Azazel embodies the dark side of human nature, the untamed desires and destructive impulses that threaten to undermine social order. Alternatively, Azazel can be interpreted as a remote and desolate place, symbolizing banishment, isolation, and the unknown. In this context, Azazel becomes a metaphor for the wilderness itself, a liminal space where the boundaries between the human and divine realms blur, and where individuals confront their deepest fears and anxieties. Or we can conclude that Azazel is a symbolic representation of sin itself, embodying the collective transgressions of the community, an abstraction of human sinfulness. The social impact of this concept of taking sins away is truly profound. Following the Yom Kippur ritual, the community experiences a palpable sense of catharsis and relief, a collective cleansing of their moral conscience. The act of transferring sins onto the scapegoat allows individuals to momentarily shed their guilt and embrace a renewed sense of innocence and purity. This collective absolution reinforces social bonds and promotes a sense of unity and shared purpose within the community. But is this sense of absolution genuine, or is it merely a temporary illusion, masking deeper societal problems and perpetuating a cycle of blame and denial? What happens when the community inevitably falls back into sin? Is another scapegoat needed? And does the reliance on scapegoating ultimately hinder genuine self-reflection and lasting moral improvement? To gain a deeper understanding of this complex ritual, let us examine the specific textual evidence from Leviticus 16, which meticulously outlines the procedures involved in the scapegoat ritual. The text details the selection of the two goats, the casting of lots to determine their respective fates, and the high priest's confession of sins over the scapegoat's head. He is to lay both hands on the head of the live goat and confess over it all the wickedness and rebellion of the Israelites, all their sins, and put them on the goat's head. He shall send the goat away into the wilderness in the care of a designated person. Leviticus 16:21. These passages provide a vivid glimpse into the mechanics of the ritual, highlighting the symbolic act of transferring sins and the importance of banishing the scapegoat to the wilderness. But the practice of scapegoating extends far beyond the confines of ancient Jewish tradition. Throughout history, societies have repeatedly turned to scapegoating as a means of dealing with social and economic upheaval. Consider, for example, the persecution of minority groups during times of crisis. The scapegoating of Jewish people in medieval Europe, where they were falsely blamed for plagues, economic hardship, and social unrest, serves as a chilling reminder of the dangers of collective blame. Similarly, the blaming of individuals for systemic problems or failures is a common tactic employed in various contexts. The scapegoating of political leaders or corporate executives during times of crisis often serves to deflect attention away from deeper structural issues and absolve those in power of their responsibility. We can even see it in mythology in the symbolism of the evil twin. Consider the biblical example of Cain and Abel, the former being banished for his sins. Further textual evidence of banishment rituals can be found in other ancient religions, mirroring the Leviticus account. Analyzing the psychological and social functions of the scapegoat ritual reveals a complex interplay of emotions and motivations. The ritual provides a sense of catharsis and purification for the community, allowing individuals to release pent-up guilt and anxiety. The act of banishing the scapegoat, laden with sin, creates a symbolic cleansing, restoring a sense of order and harmony to the community. However, the ethical implications of scapegoating are far from straightforward. Is it a just and effective way to deal with sin and guilt, or does it perpetuate injustice and inequality? The potential for scapegoating to be used as a tool of oppression is undeniable. By targeting vulnerable groups and blaming them for society's problems, those in power can deflect criticism and maintain their dominance. Furthermore, the reliance on scapegoating can hinder genuine self-reflection and prevent the community from addressing the root causes of its problems. Is Azazel a demonic figure who deserves to be punished with the sins of humanity, or is he a symbolic representation of human sin, bearing the burden of collective transgression? Perhaps Azazel is neither, but just a place, a barren land far removed from civilization and humanity. This is why the Old Testament has become increasingly controversial, with some viewing it as barbaric. Yet it is still heavily influential in today's society. This leads us to ask, can scapegoating be a form of manipulation where the true villain is able to redirect attention onto a false one? So we've seen that Azazel's punishment is inextricably intertwined with the scapegoat ritual, a symbolic act of transferring sin and guilt onto a designated victim, whether that victim is a demonic entity, a desolate place, or simply the embodiment of sin itself. But was Azazel's role as a scapegoat truly a punishment, a just retribution for his transgression of sharing forbidden knowledge? Or could it be interpreted as a form of liberation, a twisted form of honor, or even a necessary sacrifice for the greater good? We must now consider the possibility that Azazel's exile was not an end, but a beginning, a catalyst for a far more profound transformation. Did Azazel suffer as a scapegoat, or did he somehow gain something from it? Consider this: what if Azazel was not inherently evil, but merely a catalyst for change? Taking on the sins of humanity, some might argue, is not a punishment, but a form of sacrifice, a willingness to bear the burden of others' transgressions. Furthermore, Azazel's banishment, far from being a prison, could have been a path to greater knowledge and understanding. Perhaps in the desolate wilderness, separated from both the divine and the human realms, Azazel gained access to even more profound secrets, unlocking the mysteries of the universe and transcending the limitations of his former existence. And what if the sins he took weren't sins at all, but necessary actions for survival in a harsh and unforgiving world? In such a context, taking what is needed to survive is not evil, but simply a matter of necessity, a primal instinct for self-preservation. In short, the definition of sin is subject to interpretation, varying across cultures, religions, and even individual belief systems. What one society deems immoral, another may view as perfectly acceptable or even essential for survival. Despite these counterarguments, the myth of Azazel remains a powerful reflection of humanity's complex relationship with knowledge, power, and responsibility. Even if Azazel was not punished in the traditional sense, his actions still had profound and lasting consequences for humanity and the divine world, forever altering the course of history. Ultimately, the story of Azazel, intertwined with the scapegoat ritual, serves as a potent commentary on sacrifice, honor, and justice, forcing us to confront uncomfortable questions about the nature of good and evil and the complex motivations that drive human and divine actions. Azazel is not simply one thing: a demon, a scapegoat, a rebel, but rather a multifaceted figure embodying the inherent contradictions of existence. The myth of Azazel forces us to confront the question of whether or not we need a villain. Why do we need Azazel to be a certain way? Having examined the intricate connection between Azazel's punishment and the ancient scapegoat ritual, we now pivot to a far more provocative question. Was Azazel's banishment truly a divine act of retribution, or might there be a hidden, perhaps even liberating, dimension to his fate? This is where our exploration takes an unexpected turn, moving beyond conventional interpretations of punishment to consider the possibility of transformation and even honor within Azazel's exile. We will now examine the counterintuitive idea that Azazel's suffering might have unlocked a unique form of knowledge or power, hinting at a cosmic plan far grander than simple retribution. Prepare to challenge conventional wisdom as we explore the enigmatic depths of Azazel's story. To fully appreciate the potential for a transformed understanding of Azazel's fate, we must first consider ancient perspectives on exile and banishment. In ancient Greece, ostracism was a formal procedure where citizens could be exiled from the city-state for a period of 10 years, not necessarily as punishment for a crime, but as a preventative measure to protect the stability of the state. Similarly, in ancient Rome, deportation was sometimes used as a tool to remove political rivals or individuals deemed dangerous to the Republic. These practices, while undoubtedly disruptive to the lives of those exiled, were not always viewed as purely punitive. Exile could provide an opportunity for reflection, self-discovery, or even the acquisition of new knowledge and skills in foreign lands. Consider also the different forms of sacrifice and their symbolic meanings in ancient cultures. In Japanese culture, self-sacrifice is viewed as an honorable act, a demonstration of unwavering loyalty or commitment to a greater cause. The concept of martyrdom in Christianity similarly elevates sacrifice to a sacred level, with martyrs viewed as heroes who willingly endure suffering for their faith. These examples demonstrate that sacrifice and banishment are not always viewed as negative experiences, but can be seen as paths to transformation and spiritual growth. Furthermore, the concept of heroic exile is a recurring theme in mythology and literature. Consider the story of Oedipus, who was exiled from Thebes after unknowingly fulfilling a prophecy that he would kill his father and marry his mother. In exile, Oedipus gained a deeper understanding of himself and his fate, ultimately becoming a figure of tragic wisdom. Similarly, Moses was exiled from Egypt after killing an Egyptian taskmaster, only to return as the leader of the Israelites and the deliverer of the Ten Commandments. These stories suggest that banishment can be a catalyst for transformation and self-discovery, leading to a greater understanding of oneself and the world. Consider, too, the concept of reverse psychology to attain enlightenment. Ascetics, for example, often deprive themselves of worldly pleasures in order to gain a deeper understanding of the nature of desire and attachment. By embracing suffering and hardship, they seek to transcend the limitations of the physical world and attain a higher state of consciousness. What if Azazel's banishment was part of a reverse psychology scheme to become enlightened? In the context of Azazel's story, redemption takes on a unique meaning. It is not simply about forgiveness for past transgressions, but about the possibility that his suffering and isolation could lead to a profound spiritual transformation. This redemption differs from simple forgiveness in that it involves a fundamental change in character and purpose, a complete re-evaluation of one's place in the cosmos. Liberation, in this context, refers to Azazel's potential freedom from the constraints of divine authority or societal expectations. His exile could have allowed him to develop his own unique identity and purpose, independent of the dictates of either the divine or human realms. The concept of twisted honor suggests that Azazel's seemingly negative fate might be viewed as a privilege, a necessary burden that he was chosen to bear. This twisted honor is akin to the idea of cursed bloodlines or chosen ones in mythology and literature, where individuals are burdened with a difficult destiny, but ultimately play a crucial role in a larger cosmic plan. But how exactly do these concepts relate to the story of Azazel, and what relevance do they hold for the modern world? Could Azazel have been given the greatest honor of all? There are many examples from mythology and literature where exile leads to profound transformation. Consider the story of Odin, the Norse god who hung himself on Yggdrasil, the world tree, for 9 days and nights in order to gain knowledge of the runes. This self-imposed exile and sacrifice allowed Odin to unlock the secrets of the universe, becoming the wisest and most powerful of the gods. Similarly, the story of Jesus being crucified, an experience bringing enlightenment to the world. The sacrifice on the cross, while undeniably painful and humiliating, is viewed by Christians as a necessary step in the salvation of humanity. These examples illustrate the transformative power of exile and sacrifice, suggesting that even the most negative experiences can lead to profound spiritual growth and understanding. And one must consider the cases where sacrifice is viewed as a form of honor or a necessary step in a larger plan. In Greek mythology, the story of Iphigenia being sacrificed to appease the gods demonstrates how sacrifice can be viewed as a way to ensure the success of a larger endeavor, even if it involves great personal cost. Could Azazel have been sacrificed as a way to improve humanity? Throughout history, we also see examples of scapegoats who are later vindicated or recognized for their contributions. Nelson Mandela, for example, was imprisoned for 27 years for his activism against apartheid in South Africa. During his imprisonment, he became a symbol of resistance and hope, and after his release, he played a crucial role in dismantling apartheid and building a new, democratic South Africa. Mandela's story demonstrates that even those who are initially vilified and punished can later be recognized for their courage and vision. One can find many examples of alternative character interpretations in textual evidence in literature. Consider Milton's Paradise Lost and the portrayal of Lucifer as a tragic hero. Milton's Lucifer is not simply a force of evil, but a complex and sympathetic character who rebels against what he sees as a tyrannical god. This alternative interpretation of Lucifer challenges traditional notions of good and evil, prompting readers to question the nature of authority and the motivations of those who challenge it. Could the character of Azazel be subject to a similar alternate interpretation? Analyzing the symbolism of Azazel's exile reveals a complex interplay of human potential, divine justice, and the nature of good and evil. Azazel's isolation can be interpreted as a symbol of the human capacity for both destruction and creativity. Separated from both the divine and human realms, he is free to explore the full range of his potential, for better or for worse. The ethical implications of viewing Azazel's suffering as a form of liberation or honor are also significant. Does this justify the act of scapegoating, or does it simply complicate our understanding of it? If Azazel's suffering ultimately leads to a greater good, does that make his banishment morally justifiable? Furthermore, there is the potential for Azazel to be seen as a tragic hero, a being forced into a role he didn't want, who ultimately serves a greater purpose through his suffering. In this context, Azazel becomes a symbol of the inherent contradictions of existence, the tension between individual freedom and collective responsibility, and the enduring mystery of the human condition. But should this interpretation of Azazel's banishment be viewed as empowering? Does it give too much power to the entity, or not enough? So we've seen that Azazel's fate can be interpreted in multiple ways, not just as punishment, but also as a form of liberation, honor, or transformation. This leads us to ask a broader question. What does this complex and contradictory figure tell us about the nature of knowledge, transgression, and the human condition? What is the ultimate message of Azazel's story, and how can we apply it to our own lives? As we delve deeper into the enduring relevance of the Azazel myth, we will consider its connections to modern issues of technology, ethics, and spirituality, considering how the story of Azazel continues to resonate with us today, even in a world far removed from ancient religious traditions. But prepare yourself, because what we are about to uncover may challenge your deepest assumptions about good and evil. What if I were to tell you that this entity not only enjoyed being banished, but was actually planning to be banished? Before we continue, it is important to acknowledge the traditional view of Azazel as a punished figure, emphasizing the importance of respecting religious beliefs. For many, Azazel remains a demonic figure, a symbol of evil and corruption, and it is essential to approach this topic with sensitivity and respect for those who hold this view. We must also address the perspective that portraying Azazel in a positive light could be seen as glorifying evil or undermining moral values. Some might argue that, by focusing on the potential for redemption or transformation, we are minimizing the harm that Azazel caused by sharing forbidden knowledge. It is also possible that the positive interpretations of Azazel's fate are simply romanticized or sentimentalized versions of a more brutal reality. We must acknowledge the suffering and isolation that Azazel likely endured and avoid trivializing his experience. Many cultures view positive figures with suspicion, and if Azazel was truly a positive figure, would he necessarily be a good person? It is important to consider the cultural and societal implications of these issues. Despite these counterarguments, there is value in exploring alternative interpretations of Azazel's story. Challenging conventional wisdom can lead to a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us. Exploring Azazel, or figures like him, might expose us to the fact that we should seek to understand the different interpretations of those figures, whether positive or negative. But most importantly, the myth of Azazel is a reflection of humanity's ongoing struggle with knowledge, power, and responsibility, and can teach us valuable lessons about the need for critical thinking, ethical decision-making, and spiritual growth. Ultimately, Azazel's story continues to resonate with us today because it speaks to the fundamental human desire for knowledge and the potential consequences of our choices. The myth of Azazel challenges us to consider whether we are truly free or if we are bound by the sins of our own making. Can we redeem ourselves from the consequences of our past actions, or are we destined to repeat them? Are we truly free from sin? So, we see that Azazel's story continues to resonate with us today, not just as an ancient myth, but as a mirror reflecting our own complex relationship with knowledge and progress. This brings us to a crucial question. How are the themes embodied by Azazel forbidden knowledge, transgression, and the consequences of innovation mirrored in contemporary society, especially in the ever-evolving realm of technology? We will examine how Azazel's gifts, once bestowed upon humanity in a distant past, are eerily reflected in the technologies we wield today, technologies that hold the potential for both unprecedented advancement and unimaginable destruction. Consider this: modern technology, like Azazel's forbidden knowledge, has the potential for both great good and great harm. Perhaps technologies like AI and genetic engineering could be seen as modern versions of Azazel's gifts. To truly grasp the parallel between AZAZEL's actions and our current technological landscape, we must briefly trace the history of technological advancements and their unintended, often devastating, consequences. Consider the Industrial Revolution, a period of unprecedented technological advancement that transformed societies and economies. While it brought about increased productivity, wealth, and improved living standards for some, it also led to widespread environmental pollution, exploitation of workers, and social inequality. The development of nuclear weapons, initially conceived as a means of ending World War II, quickly ushered in an era of nuclear proliferation and the constant threat of global annihilation. Historically, technology is not a neutral force, but is shaped by human values and choices. This understanding challenges the concept of technological determinism, the belief that technology inevitably shapes society, regardless of human agency. Moreover, technology is never neutral. Its creation and use are always influenced by human values, biases, and power dynamics. The unsettling phenomenon of the uncanny valley, where realistic representations of humans in AI or robotics evoke revulsion rather than empathy, underscores this unease. In the 19th century, the Luddite movement emerged in England, with textile workers destroying machinery they viewed as a threat to their livelihoods and traditional way of life. What is it about technology that inspires such fear and loathing? In the modern context, forbidden knowledge can be defined as those technologies that push the boundaries of what is considered ethical, safe, or natural, venturing into domains that were once considered the sole province of the divine. Artificial intelligence, with its potential to surpass human intelligence, raises fundamental questions about consciousness, autonomy, and the very definition of what it means to be human. Genetic engineering, with its power to alter the human genome, opens the door to designer babies and the potential for unforeseen genetic consequences. Nanotechnology, the creation of microscopic machines, promises to revolutionize medicine and manufacturing, but also raises concerns about environmental risks and the potential for self-replicating nanobots to run amok. Social media, initially conceived as a tool for connecting people, has become a breeding ground for misinformation, polarization, and social division. Each of these technologies can be seen as both empowering and dangerous, depending on how they are used. AI can improve healthcare and education, but it can also be used for autonomous weapons and mass surveillance. Just because we can do something with technology doesn't mean we should. We are quickly approaching the precipice of the transhumanist age, the point in time when humans transcend their biological limitations through technological advancement. But where do we draw the line? Would we upload our consciousness into a machine? The story of AZAZEL and his forbidden knowledge finds a chilling echo in these modern technologies. Consider artificial intelligence, the potential for AI to surpass human intelligence and become a force of its own mirrors, the ancient fear of beings created by humans becoming more powerful than their creators. AI art generators can now create stunningly realistic images and music, even coding software or write scripts, raising questions about the value of human creativity and the potential for AI to displace human artists and writers. In the realm of genetic engineering, CRISPR technology allows us to precisely edit the human genome, offering the potential for curing genetic diseases and enhancing human capabilities. However, it also raises the specter of designer babies and the creation of new forms of inequality, where genetic enhancements are only available to the wealthy elite. One might use nanobots for targeted drug delivery, delivering medicine directly to cancer cells, but there are concerns about the potential for these nanobots to malfunction, accumulate in the body, or be used for malicious purposes. And what of social media? Its ability to connect billions of people across the globe has revolutionized communication and social interaction. But what of the Cambridge Analytica scandal, where personal data from millions of Facebook users was harvested without their consent, and used for political advertising, demonstrates the potential for social media to be weaponized for manipulation and social division. What happens when our technology is turned against us? These examples force us to analyze the underlying motivations driving the relentless pursuit of technological advancement. Are we genuinely driven by a desire to improve the human condition, to alleviate suffering, and to create a better world for all? Or are we primarily motivated by a thirst for power, control, or profit, heedless of the potential consequences of our actions? Perhaps there is a combination of altruism, ambition, and greed driving technological advancement, each influencing the direction and pace of innovation. What does our focus on AI and genetic engineering say about our values, priorities, and our relationship with nature? It may reveal our deepest desires for immortality, perfection, and control over our own destiny. But even more broadly, these technologies have far-reaching implications for our understanding of knowledge, power, and responsibility. Does the story of AZAZEL suggest that some knowledge is too dangerous for humanity to possess? Can we even handle the powers we create? Should knowledge be controlled? Perhaps we need to accept the fact that with advanced knowledge comes advanced responsibility. Is our government responsible for controlling the information that we see? Or do we have the right to see everything? So, we see that modern technology, like AZAZEL's forbidden knowledge, presents humanity with both incredible opportunities and profound risks. How then can we learn from the myth of AZAZEL to navigate the ethical challenges of the modern world and ensure that technology serves humanity's best interests, rather than leading us down a path of destruction? Can we learn to wield technology responsibly and avoid repeating the mistakes of the past? This exploration will lead us to consider the role of ethics, regulation, and public discourse in shaping the future of technology. But what if we have it all wrong? However, it is important to acknowledge the view that technological progress is inevitable and that we should embrace it without reservation, as it has always been a force for good, and that any negative consequences are simply growing pains. Some might argue that concerns about the ethical implications of technology are exaggerated or unfounded, that the benefits of technology outweigh the risks, and that we should not stifle innovation out of fear. After all, the internet has created more wealth than anything else in history. It is also possible that our current ethical frameworks are inadequate for dealing with the challenges posed by emerging technologies. Perhaps we need to develop new moral principles and guidelines for navigating the ethical landscape of the 21st century. Are our positive views inherently flawed? Despite these counterarguments, the story of AZAZEL, a figure who bestowed forbidden knowledge upon humanity, serves as an enduring and poignant reminder about the need for wisdom and responsibility in the face of technological advancement. The story of AZAZEL can teach us valuable lessons about the importance of critical thinking, ethical decision-making, and spiritual growth. The story of AZAZEL challenges us to consider the potential consequences of our actions and to make choices that promote the well-being of humanity and the planet. AZAZEL's story continues to resonate with us today because it speaks to the fundamental human desire for knowledge and the potential consequences of our choices. The myth of AZAZEL challenges us to consider whether we are truly in control of our technology or whether it is controlling us. Are we using technology to shape the world according to our values, or are we allowing technology to shape our values and our world? Are we even truly free? So we have established that technology possesses the power to both elevate and endanger humanity, a concept mirroring the double-edged sword of AZAZEL's forbidden knowledge. This leads us to a critical question. Has modern technology, like the knowledge AZAZEL imparted, created a new chasm within humanity, separating those who possess access and understanding from those who do not? We will explore how technology has, perhaps unintentionally, fostered a modern divide, a new class system of the digitally empowered and the digitally disenfranchised, echoing the corruption that followed AZAZEL's gifts. But what are the dangers of this growing disparity, and could this imbalance lead to a dystopian future where the elite wield technology as a tool of control, leaving the masses behind? To truly understand the implications of this digital divide, it is crucial to recognize that the unequal distribution of knowledge and technology has a long and troubled history. Consider the advent of the printing press. While it democratized information to some extent, its initial impact was largely confined to the educated elite, further widening the gap between the literate and illiterate. Similarly, the Industrial Revolution, driven by technological advancements, created a stark divide between the factory owners and the working class, leading to social unrest and economic inequality. Access to education and information has historically been a source of power and privilege, with libraries and institutions of learning often restricted to the wealthy and influential. And let us not forget the rise of feudalism, a system where technology such as castles and advanced weaponry further solidified the power of the ruling class, creating a rigid social hierarchy. Moreover, religion has often played a similar role, with those claiming divine right to rule wielding immense power and influence over the masses. Is history doomed to repeat itself? In this context, the digital divide can be defined as the gulf that separates those who have access to modern information and communication technologies, such as computers, smartphones, and the internet, from those who do not. This divide is not merely about access to physical devices. It encompasses a range of factors, including income, education, geographic location, age, and digital literacy. The digital divide reinforces existing social inequalities and creates new ones, as those without access to technology are increasingly excluded from participating fully in the digital economy and society. Crucially, access to technology is not enough. People must also possess the skills and knowledge to use it effectively. Digital literacy, the ability to find, evaluate, and create information using digital technologies, is essential for navigating the modern world. Without it, individuals are at a significant disadvantage, unable to access online job postings, educational resources, government services, and essential information. What are the broader social and economic consequences of this growing disparity? The consequences of the digital divide are evident in many aspects of contemporary society. In rural areas and low-income communities, lack of internet access is a persistent problem, hindering economic development and limiting educational opportunities. Studies consistently show disparities in internet access based on geographic location and socioeconomic status, with rural and low-income households lagging far behind their urban and wealthier counterparts. The high cost of computers, smartphones, and internet service makes them unaffordable for many people, particularly those living on fixed incomes or struggling to make ends meet. Statistics reveal that the cost of technology accounts for a significantly higher percentage of income for low-income households compared to high-income households. There is also a skills gap between those who possess digital literacy and those who do not, creating a barrier for older adults, people with disabilities, and individuals with limited education. And what are the impact on education, employment, and healthcare? Students without internet access at home struggle to complete homework and participate in online learning, while patients are unable to access telehealth services or manage their health online. Is our society failing to provide the most basic tools for success? The social, economic, and political forces that contribute to the digital divide are complex and multifaceted. Government policies, corporate interests, and cultural norms all play a role in shaping access to technology. The lack of affordable internet infrastructure in rural areas, for example, is often attributed to the high cost of deployment and the limited potential for profit. Corporate interests can also influence access to technology, with companies prioritizing wealthier markets and neglecting underserved communities. But is access to technology a fundamental human right, or simply a privilege for those who can afford it? This divide undermines democratic participation and creates new forms of social control, where those with access to information and technology are better equipped to influence public opinion and participate in political processes. Perhaps the most dangerous outcome of this divide is the further concentration of power among the elite, who can use technology to control information, manipulate markets, and maintain their dominance. Are we creating a world where only a select few have access to the tools and knowledge necessary to thrive? So we see that the digital divide is a growing problem that threatens to exacerbate existing social inequalities and create new ones, mirroring the themes explored in the AZAZEL myth. But what can be done to bridge the digital divide and ensure that technology benefits all of humanity, not just a privileged few? How can we create a more equitable and inclusive digital future, one where everyone has the opportunity to participate fully in the digital economy and society? We will consider the role of education, infrastructure, and affordability in creating a more level playing field. But is there something more sinister at play? It is important to acknowledge the view that the digital divide is simply a temporary problem that will be solved by market forces and technological innovation, believing that as technology becomes cheaper and more accessible, the digital divide will naturally disappear. There is also the perspective that those who lack internet access are simply uninterested in technology or lack the skills to use it effectively. But doesn't that ignore the systemic barriers that prevent many people from accessing and using technology in the first place? Is it possible that focusing on the digital divide distracts us from other important social and economic issues? Perhaps poverty, inequality, and discrimination are more fundamental problems that need to be addressed first. Furthermore, technology isn't always viewed positively, even by those with access. The Amish, for example, actively refuse to adopt many modern technologies, prioritizing their traditional way of life. Despite these counterarguments, the story of AZAZEL serves as an enduring reminder about the need for social justice and equality in the face of technological advancement. The story of AZAZEL can teach us valuable lessons about the importance of ensuring that technology benefits all of humanity, not just a privileged few. The story of AZAZEL challenges us to consider the potential consequences of our actions and to make choices that promote the well-being of all people. AZAZEL's story continues to resonate with us today because it speaks to the fundamental human desire for knowledge and the potential consequences of our choices, and it is up to us to ensure those choices are not harmful. And so, the myth of AZAZEL challenges us to consider: are we creating a digital utopia or a digital dystopia? To address this imbalance and ensure technology serves to elevate rather than divide humanity, we must turn our attention to potential solutions for bridging the digital divide. This section will explore government initiatives, community programs, and technological innovations designed to promote digital inclusion. However, this is not a simple fix. As we delve into these solutions, it's crucial to recognize that there is no one-size-fits-all approach, and that each community requires tailored strategies that address its specific needs and circumstances. But are these solutions enough, and could they inadvertently create new problems that exacerbate existing inequalities? Historically, efforts to bridge knowledge gaps and promote social inclusion have taken many forms, with varying degrees of success. The establishment of public schools and libraries in the 19th and 20th centuries aimed to democratize access to education and information, empowering individuals from all walks of life. However, these efforts were often limited by factors such as funding disparities, geographic barriers, and discriminatory practices. Early literacy programs, while laudable in their intent, often struggled to reach marginalized communities and address the specific needs of diverse learners. Furthermore, technological inclusion programs, such as those providing low-cost equipment, have faced challenges related to sustainability, maintenance, and digital literacy training. Social programs designed to combat technological exclusion, such as job training initiatives using computers, have also encountered obstacles related to funding cuts, lack of employer support, and the rapidly evolving nature of technology. What lessons can we learn from these past efforts to inform our approach to digital inclusion today? In this context, digital inclusion can be defined as ensuring that everyone has access to and can effectively use digital technologies to participate fully in society and the economy. This encompasses more than just access to devices and internet connectivity. It includes the skills, knowledge, and support necessary to navigate the digital world confidently and safely. A successful digital inclusion strategy rests on several key components. First, infrastructure is essential, providing reliable and affordable internet access to all communities, including rural and underserved areas. Government investment in broadband infrastructure is crucial for bridging the connectivity gap. Second, education is paramount, developing digital literacy skills among individuals of all ages and backgrounds. Community-based digital literacy training programs can empower people to use technology effectively. Third, access must be addressed, providing affordable devices and internet service to low-income families and individuals. Subsidized computers and internet access can make technology more accessible to those who need it most. Finally, relevance is key, creating content and applications that meet the needs of diverse communities and reflect their cultural values. Developing online resources in multiple languages and tailoring digital literacy training to specific cultural contexts can ensure that technology is relevant and meaningful to all. Furthermore, economic incentives, such as tax breaks for technological development, can drive innovation and investment in digital inclusion initiatives. But is this truly enough, or is something still missing? Numerous digital inclusion initiatives around the world have demonstrated the potential for technology to transform lives and communities. Government programs that provide affordable internet access to low-income families, such as the Lifeline program in the United States, have helped to bridge the connectivity gap and expand access to online resources. Community-based organizations that offer digital literacy training to underserved populations, such as libraries and community centers providing free computer classes, have empowered individuals to develop essential skills and participate more fully in the digital economy. Technological innovations that make the internet more accessible to people with disabilities, such as assistive technologies like screen readers and voice recognition software, have helped to break down barriers and promote inclusivity. Public-private partnerships that promote digital inclusion, such as telecommunication companies working with local governments to expand broadband access in rural areas, have leveraged resources and expertise to achieve meaningful impact. South Korea is an excellent example of a nation that prioritized computer infrastructure, leading to widespread digital literacy and a thriving tech industry. These initiatives have yielded impressive results, with increased internet access rates, improved digital literacy skills, enhanced economic opportunities, and better health outcomes reported in participating communities. But what are the underlying factors that drive the success or failure of these initiatives? The success or failure of digital inclusion initiatives hinges on a variety of factors, including funding, community engagement, effective leadership, and tailored solutions. Adequate funding is essential for sustaining programs and ensuring their long-term viability. Community engagement is crucial for understanding the specific needs and priorities of the populations being served. Effective leadership is necessary for setting clear goals, mobilizing resources, and coordinating efforts across different stakeholders. Tailored solutions that address the unique circumstances of each community are more likely to be successful than one-size-fits-all approaches. Furthermore, digital inclusion is not merely a technological issue. It is fundamentally a matter of social justice, economic opportunity, and democratic participation. A society where everyone has access to technology and the skills to use it effectively is a more equitable and democratic society. In a truly equitable technological world, every person would have low-cost access to a high-speed device and the resources to use it effectively. But is this just a pipe dream? So, we see that there are many promising solutions for bridging the digital divide and creating a more just and equitable society. But what are the potential unintended consequences of these solutions, and how can we mitigate them? Could our efforts to promote digital inclusion inadvertently create new forms of inequality or social control? We will now consider the potential for increased surveillance, data privacy concerns, and the erosion of traditional communities as unintended consequences. It is important to acknowledge the view that digital inclusion is a utopian ideal that is not achievable in the real world. Some argue that some people will always be left behind, regardless of our efforts, due to factors such as lack of interest, limited cognitive abilities, or cultural resistance. Others believe that efforts to promote digital inclusion are a waste of resources that could be better spent on other priorities, such as addressing poverty, hunger, or disease. Still, others suggest that there are more pressing social problems that need to be addressed first. There is also the possibility that digital inclusion could have negative consequences, such as increased social isolation, cyberbullying, and the spread of misinformation. We need to be mindful of the potential downsides of technology, such as the erosion of privacy, the manipulation of public opinion, and the creation of echo chambers. Furthermore, technology can be forced on people, making it a requirement to perform work duties or access essential services, potentially creating resentment and resistance. Is digital inclusion a blessing or a curse? Despite these counterarguments, the enduring relevance of the AZAZEL myth serves as a call for responsible innovation and social justice, even if we cannot achieve a perfect digital utopia. We must strive to create a more equitable and inclusive digital world, where everyone has the opportunity to participate fully in the digital economy and society, but we must ensure that power and knowledge come with great responsibility. The story of AZAZEL challenges us to consider the potential consequences of our actions and to make choices that promote the well-being of all people. AZAZEL's story continues to resonate with us today because it speaks to the fundamental human desire for knowledge and the potential consequences of our choices. The key is to mitigate the negatives. So, the myth of AZAZEL challenges us to consider whether we are building a world where technology empowers all people, or whether we are creating a new form of digital feudalism. Are we using technology to create a more just and equitable society, or are we simply reinforcing existing inequalities and creating new forms of oppression? So, we see that even well-intentioned efforts to promote digital inclusion can have downsides that exacerbate existing inequalities, echoing the challenges humanity faced after receiving AZAZEL's gifts. This brings us to the crucial question of exploring the potential unintended consequences of digital inclusion efforts, consequences that demand our critical attention, just as the aftermath of forbidden knowledge does. While digital inclusion holds immense promise, increased surveillance, data privacy concerns, the erosion of traditional communities, and the potential for new forms of inequality lurk beneath the surface, threatening to undermine the very goals we seek to achieve. But can we truly navigate the treacherous waters of technological progress without succumbing to these hidden dangers, or are we doomed to repeat the mistakes of the past? Historically, technological advancements intended for the betterment of humanity have often been accompanied by unforeseen and detrimental consequences, a pattern that echoes the narrative of AZAZEL. Consider the Green Revolution, a mid-20th century initiative aimed at increasing food production in developing countries through the introduction of high-yield crop varieties, irrigation, and fertilizers. While the Green Revolution did succeed in boosting agricultural output and alleviating hunger in many regions, it also led to widespread environmental damage, including soil degradation, water pollution, and the loss of biodiversity. The intensive use of chemical fertilizers and pesticides contaminated water sources, harmed beneficial insects, and disrupted ecosystems. Furthermore, the Green Revolution exacerbated social inequalities by favoring large-scale farmers who could afford the necessary inputs, while marginalizing smallholders who lacked access to credit and technology. Past efforts to regulate technology have had mixed results. The successes have been limited by factors such as industry lobbying, technological innovation, outpacing regulatory frameworks, and the difficulty of enforcing regulations across borders. The history of government surveillance in the digital age is equally concerning. Government surveillance programs, such as the NSA's PRISM program, have raised serious questions about the balance between national security and civil liberties. These programs, often justified by the need to combat terrorism, have involved the mass collection of personal data, including emails, phone calls, and internet browsing history, impacting freedom of speech and association. What lessons can be gleaned from these historical precedents to guide our approach to digital inclusion and mitigate its potential downsides? In this context, several core concepts warrant careful examination. Surveillance capitalism refers to the commodification of personal data and its use for targeted advertising and behavioral modification. Companies collect vast amounts of data on individuals' online activities, preferences, and behaviors, analyzing this data to create detailed profiles that are then used to influence consumer behavior through personalized ads and manipulative marketing tactics. This commodification of personal data raises serious ethical concerns about privacy, autonomy, and the potential for manipulation. Algorithmic bias refers to systematic and repeatable errors in a computer system that create unfair outcomes, such as reinforcing stereotypes. Algorithmic bias can perpetuate discrimination in hiring, lending, and other areas, particularly against marginalized groups. For example, facial recognition software has been shown to be less accurate on people of color, leading to misidentification and wrongful arrests. Digital colonialism refers to the exploitation of developing countries through technology, where developed countries exert economic and cultural influence through the provision of digital infrastructure, platforms, and services. This can lead to the dependence of developing countries on foreign technology, the loss of local culture, and the exploitation of local resources. In social and economic terms, algorithmic bias can perpetuate discrimination in hiring, lending, and other areas, limiting opportunities for marginalized groups and exacerbating existing inequalities. These concepts are critical to understanding the potential pitfalls of digital inclusion efforts. But how do these concepts manifest in the real world, and what are the consequences? Specific examples abound of how digital inclusion efforts can lead to unintended consequences. Government programs that provide free internet access in exchange for data collection, while seemingly beneficial, can result in increased surveillance. These programs often collect data on citizens' online activity, including browsing history, search queries, and social media posts, raising serious privacy concerns and potentially chilling freedom of expression. The collection and misuse of personal data by tech companies exemplifies data privacy concerns. Data breaches, such as the Equifax breach in 2017, exposed the personal information of millions of people, leading to identity theft, financial loss, and reputational damage. The sale of personal information to third parties, often without individuals' explicit consent, raises further ethical concerns. The erosion of traditional communities is evident in the decline of face-to-face interactions and the loss of local culture. Online social networks, while offering new ways to connect with others, have also replaced traditional community gatherings, such as town hall meetings and neighborhood block parties, weakening social bonds and diminishing civic engagement. The automation of jobs once performed by low-skilled workers is creating a digital underclass that is excluded from economic opportunities, resulting in new forms of inequality. As AI and robotics become more sophisticated, many jobs that were once considered safe from automation are now at risk, further exacerbating economic disparities. Can these unintended consequences be mitigated, or are they an inevitable byproduct of technological progress? The ethical implications of these unintended consequences are profound. Is it ethical to sacrifice privacy for the sake of convenience or security? Is it just to perpetuate discrimination through algorithmic bias? Is it right to exploit developing countries through digital colonialism? These are not easy questions, and they demand careful consideration. In terms of social justice, equality, and human rights, these unintended consequences undermine democratic participation. Increased surveillance can chill freedom of expression and dissent, limiting citizens' ability to hold their government accountable. Data privacy concerns can erode trust in institutions and undermine the social contract. The broader implications of these unintended consequences challenge our understanding of knowledge, power, and responsibility. How can we ensure that technology empowers all people, not just a privileged few? What responsibilities do technology developers have to society? These questions require us to grapple with the ethical dimensions of technology development and to ensure that technology serves human needs and values. Ethics in technology development is not just a matter of compliance with laws and regulations. It is a matter of moral responsibility. What actions can we take to ensure responsible technological growth? So we see that even well-intentioned efforts to promote digital inclusion can have downsides, such as increased surveillance, data privacy concerns, and the erosion of traditional communities. This leads us to the critical question: how can we mitigate these unintended consequences and ensure that digital inclusion efforts truly benefit all of humanity, especially given how even solutions can create new problems, echoing the AZAZEL narrative? We will need to consider the role of regulation, education, and ethical design in mitigating these unintended consequences, ensuring the digital future is both equitable and safe. But can we do this without stifling innovation and progress? There is the view that the benefits of digital inclusion outweigh the potential risks. Proponents of this view argue that technology can empower individuals, create economic opportunities, and promote social progress. They point to the many ways in which technology has improved lives around the world, from connecting people across distances to providing access to education and healthcare. It is said that without technological knowledge, a person may become paranoid about technology. If the benefits of technology outweigh the risks, some would suggest that we should embrace digital inclusion and focus on maximizing its potential while minimizing the potential downsides. Concerns about unintended consequences are also viewed as overblown. It's argued that these concerns ignore the potential benefits of technology and that they are often based on worst-case scenarios that are unlikely to occur. These concerns may come from a lack of understanding. Furthermore, some argue that we can develop technological solutions to mitigate the unintended consequences of digital inclusion. We can use encryption and other technologies to protect privacy, develop algorithms that are less biased, and promote digital literacy to empower individuals to make informed choices about their online activities. Is this a realistic view or overly optimistic? Despite these counterarguments, the enduring relevance of the AZAZEL myth serves as a cautionary tale, reminding us that the potential for technology to do harm must always be considered, whether we can achieve a perfect digital utopia or not. We must strive to use technology wisely to protect all people and avoid repeating the mistakes of the past. The central idea that knowledge and power come with great responsibility remains as pertinent as ever. AZAZEL's story continues to resonate with us today because it speaks to the need for thoughtful consideration of our choices and of the fact that even the best intentions can have unforeseen consequences. His story challenges us to consider whether we are building a world where technology empowers all, or if the risks outweigh the benefits, setting the stage for new forms of inequality and oppression. Are we creating a world where technology empowers all, or do the risks outweigh the benefits? However, there's another side to this story, a perspective that moves beyond mitigating risks and unintended consequences. It's time to explore a proactive approach to technology, one where we not only avoid the pitfalls of forbidden knowledge, but actively harness its power to build a better future. Instead of fearing technology as a potential source of destruction, we can embrace it as a tool for positive construction, guiding its development and application to promote human flourishing and address the pressing challenges facing our world. This requires a fundamental shift in mindset, a move away from passive acceptance or anxious avoidance towards a determined effort to shape technology in accordance with our highest values. But is humanity ready to wield such power responsibly, or will we be consumed by the very tools we create? Historically, humanity has repeatedly demonstrated its capacity to use technology for the betterment of society, even in the face of daunting challenges. Public health initiatives, such as the development of sanitation systems and the implementation of vaccination campaigns, stand as testaments to our ability to leverage technological advancements to improve lives and reduce suffering. The construction of sanitation systems, from ancient Roman aqueducts to modern wastewater treatment plants, has dramatically reduced the spread of disease and increased life expectancy, demonstrating the power of engineering and infrastructure to promote public health. Similarly, the development and widespread distribution of vaccines have eradicated or significantly reduced the incidence of deadly diseases such as smallpox, polio, and measles, showcasing the transformative potential of medical technology. Furthermore, technology has consistently played a pivotal role in promoting education, communication, and cultural exchange throughout history. The invention of the printing press in the 15th century revolutionized the dissemination of knowledge, fostering literacy, stimulating intellectual discourse, and laying the foundation for the modern information age. The printing press enabled the mass production of books and other printed materials, making information more accessible and affordable for people from all walks of life. But can humanity utilize the good of technology to create a better future? In this context, the concept of proactive technology emerges as a guiding principle for responsible innovation, defined as the active and intentional use of technology to address social problems, promote human flourishing, and create a more just and equitable world. Unlike reactive approaches that focus on mitigating the negative consequences of technology after they have already emerged, proactive technology seeks to embed ethical considerations and social responsibility into the design, development, and deployment of technological solutions from the outset. This involves prioritizing human needs and values in the technology development process, ensuring that technological solutions are accessible, affordable, culturally relevant, and aligned with the principles of sustainability and social justice. Ethical innovation plays a crucial role in proactive technology, requiring technology developers to conduct thorough ethical impact assessments, engage diverse stakeholders in decision-making, and incorporate ethical frameworks into their design processes. Social responsibility is another key principle, requiring technology developers to consider the broader social and environmental implications of their work, and to use technology to address pressing global challenges such as poverty, inequality, and climate change. What if proactive technology can solve some of these challenges and make the world a better place? Specific examples abound of how technology is already being used to create a better future, offering tangible evidence of the transformative potential of proactive technology. Renewable energy technologies, such as solar, wind, and geothermal power, are rapidly replacing fossil fuels as the primary sources of energy, reducing carbon emissions and mitigating the impacts of climate change. Large-scale solar farms and wind turbine installations are now generating vast amounts of clean, renewable energy, powering homes, businesses, and entire communities. Precision agriculture, which utilizes sensors, drones, and data analytics to improve crop yields and reduce environmental impact, is revolutionizing the way we produce food. Drones monitor crop health, identify areas of stress, and optimize irrigation systems to minimize water waste, while sensors collect data on soil conditions, nutrient levels, and pest infestations, enabling farmers to make informed decisions about planting, fertilization, and pest control. Telemedicine is extending access to healthcare services to underserved populations, enabling doctors to consult with patients in remote areas via video conferencing, diagnose illnesses, and prescribe medications remotely, bridging geographical barriers and improving health outcomes. Online education is making education more accessible and affordable for people around the world, offering online courses, educational resources, and virtual learning environments that can be accessed by anyone with an internet connection, regardless of their location or socioeconomic status. Technology is making education open to anyone, but how will we handle the influx of information? Analyzing the factors that contribute to the success or failure of proactive technology initiatives reveals the importance of government support, private sector investment, community engagement, and effective leadership. Government policies that incentivize the development and deployment of renewable energy technologies, such as tax credits, subsidies, and feed-in tariffs, have been instrumental in driving the growth of the renewable energy sector. Private sector investment in research and development, venture capital, and commercialization has also played a crucial role in bringing innovative technologies to market. Community engagement ensures that technology solutions are tailored to the specific needs and contexts of local communities, while effective leadership provides the vision, strategy, and coordination necessary to drive proactive technology initiatives forward. Proactive technology contributes to a more just, equitable, and sustainable world, promoting human flourishing by improving health outcomes, expanding educational opportunities, and creating economic opportunities for marginalized communities. By empowering all people, not just a privileged few, and by creating a better future for all, proactive technology embodies the principles of social justice, environmental sustainability, and human rights. And what of the ability for technology to create abundance? Vertical farming and other increased yield technologies would be of enormous assistance to the human race, and this knowledge would never be given freely. Summarizing the key findings, proactive technology offers a powerful vision for how we can use technology to address social problems, promote human flourishing, and create a more just and equitable world. So we see that technology is not just a source of problems, but also a source of solutions, echoing the complex duality of AZAZEL's gifts. This leads us to the critical question: how can we ensure that these proactive technology initiatives are implemented ethically and effectively, and that they truly benefit all of humanity, particularly when scaling up these initiatives and making them more impactful? As we move forward, we'll consider the potential for unintended consequences, the need for careful planning and implementation, and the importance of ongoing evaluation and adaptation, delving into challenges that may prove as intricate as the forbidden knowledge itself. However, it's important to acknowledge the view that technology is not a panacea and that it cannot solve all of our problems. Technology is only a tool, and like any tool, it can be used for good or for ill. The effectiveness of technology in solving social problems depends on how it is used, who controls it, and what values it embodies. Some argue that efforts to promote proactive technology are unrealistic and impractical, or that the problems we face are simply too complex for technology to solve. Critics may point to the limitations of technology, the potential for unintended consequences, and the risk of exacerbating existing inequalities. Additionally, one must consider the possibility that proactive technology could have unintended consequences, as with the gifts of AZAZEL. We need to be mindful of the potential downsides of technology and to take steps to mitigate these risks. We can focus on how proactive technology can have potential downsides and remember the past problems of AZAZEL's gifts. Despite these counterarguments, the enduring relevance of the AZAZEL myth serves as a reminder of the importance of responsible innovation and social justice. Even if we cannot achieve a perfect technological utopia, the potential benefits of proactive technology make the challenges worthwhile. The story of AZAZEL challenges us to consider whether we are capable of using technology to build a better future for all, or whether we are destined to repeat the mistakes of the past. Is the development of proactive technology a step towards a better future, or merely a continuation of humanity's fraught relationship with forbidden knowledge? Building on this idea of proactive technology as a force for good, it's crucial to acknowledge that realizing this vision is far from guaranteed. The path to harnessing technology for the benefit of all humanity is fraught with challenges, obstacles that could easily derail even the most well-intentioned efforts. In this section, we turn our attention to these critical impediments, exploring the complex interplay of international relations, ethical considerations, and the ever-present potential for misuse that shadows every technological advancement. Proactive technology isn't just about better gadgets, but a better way of thinking. Will humanity rise to meet these challenges, or will we succumb to the darker aspects of our nature, forever repeating the mistakes of the past? Historically, the pursuit of international cooperation has been a recurring theme in human affairs, marked by both inspiring successes and devastating failures. The League of Nations, formed in the aftermath of World War I, represented a bold attempt to create a global body capable of preventing future conflicts through diplomacy and collective security. Despite its initial promise, the League ultimately proved ineffective in the face of rising nationalism and aggression, failing to prevent the outbreak of World War II. The United Nations, established in 1945, emerged as a successor to the League, incorporating lessons learned from its predecessor's shortcomings. While the UN has achieved notable successes in peacekeeping, humanitarian assistance, and the promotion of international law, it continues to grapple with persistent challenges, including great power rivalries, bureaucratic inefficiencies, and the difficulty of enforcing its resolutions. International cooperation has the potential to bring peace and abundance, but conflicting interests and values often hinder the progress. What can humanity learn from past successes and failures, and will we utilize it to create a better future? One of the most significant obstacles to global collaboration on technology is the wide divergence of cultural values and ethical perspectives across different societies. What one culture deems acceptable, another may consider morally reprehensible, creating friction and hindering the development of shared standards and regulations. Differing views on environmental regulations, for example, have long complicated efforts to address climate change. Some countries prioritize economic growth over environmental protection, resisting calls for stricter emissions controls and sustainable development policies. Similarly, differing perspectives on data privacy, genetic engineering, and artificial intelligence pose significant challenges to international cooperation in these rapidly evolving fields. Ethical relativism is a considerable threat to the globalization of proactive technology and what can be done to create a unified and global community. Throughout history, numerous attempts have been made to regulate technology, often in response to perceived threats or unintended consequences. The development and proliferation of nuclear technology, for example, sparked intense international efforts to control its use and prevent nuclear war. The Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, NPT, which came into force in 1970, sought to limit the spread of nuclear weapons and promote disarmament. Despite the NPT, nuclear proliferation remains a serious concern, with several countries possessing nuclear arsenals and others suspected of pursuing nuclear weapons programs. The digital revolution, while bringing unprecedented opportunities for communication, collaboration, and economic growth, has also raised concerns about privacy, security, and the spread of misinformation. The Internet, originally conceived as a decentralized and open network, has increasingly become subject to government censorship, surveillance, and control. While well-intentioned, regulation is a difficult and ever-changing landscape that is often exploited. Has technology ever been successfully regulated, or is humanity doomed to the same mistakes? International cooperation, defined as the coordinated efforts of multiple countries to address shared challenges and achieve common goals, is essential for the success of proactive technology initiatives. This requires coordinated research efforts, shared standards, and global regulations to ensure that technology is developed and deployed in a responsible and equitable manner. Ethical relativism, the idea that moral principles are relative to individual cultures or societies, poses a significant challenge to this endeavor, as different cultures may have fundamentally different views on what is right and wrong. This is a multifaceted issue to grapple with and must be considered when creating technology. Dual-use technology, which can be used for both beneficial and harmful purposes, presents another challenge. Drones, for example, can be used for search and rescue missions, delivering medical supplies and monitoring infrastructure, but they can also be used for surveillance, targeted killings, and other military applications. The very nature of technology can be used for good or evil, and can proactive technology truly bring about a better future? Furthermore, proactive technology could inadvertently exacerbate existing social divides. If only the wealthy can afford access to these technologies, proactive technology may make the gap between the rich and poor even wider. What if the technology is actively hoarded by the rich and used to oppress the poor, like so much technology has in the past? A widening gap could further destabilize society and cause mass unrest. Proactive technology requires proactive distribution in order to be beneficial to society, and requires careful planning and consideration. It can be challenging to prepare proactive technology for all and still keep its development a secret. What is more important, the security of the nation or the benefit to the populace? The challenges facing proactive technology are exemplified by the lack of international cooperation on climate change. Despite overwhelming scientific evidence of the threat posed by climate change, the international community has struggled to reach binding agreements to reduce carbon emissions. Differing national interests, economic priorities, and political ideologies have hindered progress, leading to a patchwork of voluntary commitments and insufficient action. Ethical dilemmas surrounding artificial intelligence represent another major challenge. The development of autonomous weapons, for example, raises profound ethical questions about accountability, responsibility, and the potential for unintended consequences. Who is to blame when a self-driving car causes an accident? Furthermore, the misuse of technology for surveillance and social control is a growing concern. Governments around the world are increasingly using facial recognition technology, data mining, and other tools to monitor citizens, track their movements, and suppress dissent. As technology advances, governments are more able to oppress their citizens. How can proactive technology be developed to benefit all of humanity instead of enslaving them? The potential consequences of these challenges are dire. Climate change is already leading to more frequent and severe natural disasters, including hurricanes, floods, droughts, and wildfires. AI weapons could spark a new arms race, leading to increased instability and the potential for catastrophic conflict. The misuse of technology for surveillance and social control could erode civil liberties, stifle innovation, and create a dystopian society where freedom of thought and expression are suppressed. Additionally, ethics can be viewed subjectively. Some cultures allow practices that others ban, such as certain hunting practices or marriage arrangements. The values of one group can be the horrors of another, and this is a reality that must be considered by proactive technology. What values should proactive technology espouse, and who decides what those values are? Analyzing these factors, we can see that a lack of trust, conflicting interests, ethical disagreements, and power imbalances all contribute to the challenges facing proactive technology. Nations may be unwilling to cooperate with each other due to a deep-seated lack of trust, each suspecting the other of having ulterior motives or seeking to gain an unfair advantage. This lack of trust can be rooted in historical animosities, ideological differences, or simply a rational calculation of self-interest. Conflicting interests, such as the desire for economic growth versus the need to protect the environment, can also undermine international cooperation. Ethical disagreements over issues such as data privacy, genetic engineering, and artificial intelligence can further complicate matters, making it difficult to reach consensus on shared standards and regulations. Power imbalances between nations can also play a role, with wealthier and more powerful countries often dominating the agenda and imposing their will on weaker states. The very nature of humanity may preclude proactive technology from becoming a reality, and what can be done to prevent our self-destructive nature from interfering? The significance of these challenges, interpreted in terms of human flourishing, social justice, and environmental sustainability, reveals the high stakes involved. If we cannot overcome these challenges, we risk creating a future where technology exacerbates existing inequalities, accelerates environmental destruction, and undermines fundamental human rights. What is the long-term consequence if we don't solve these challenges? Ensuring that technology is used to create a better future for all, not just a privileged few, requires a fundamental shift in how we approach innovation, development, and deployment. Proactive technology can also require a sacrifice. Building renewable energy projects, for example, can be difficult if they are near populated areas. There are trade-offs to be made when creating proactive technology, and what trade-offs should be considered when proactively developing technology. So, while proactive technology is a noble goal, achieving it is not easy. International cooperation is required, and ethical views must be considered in the design and development of technology. All of these challenges must be overcome in order for humanity to truly benefit from technology. But is global unity even possible when it comes to guiding technology? We will now explore some potential solutions and strategies to ensure that proactive technology truly benefits all of humanity, including education and a shift in focus to help all of humanity benefit from the gifts of AZAZEL. However, it's important to acknowledge the view that these challenges are insurmountable and that humanity is doomed to repeat the mistakes of the past. Some argue that human nature is inherently selfish and that we will always prioritize our own interests over the common good. The alternative to this is to suggest that technology will fix all the problems. This suggests that community-led solutions can be more effective than top-down solutions. This further suggests that international standards have associated problems. Some countries may have different capabilities, and international standards may hinder growth. Will it be more beneficial to allow each group to develop technology on its own, or will it be more beneficial to create global standards? Despite these counterarguments, the enduring relevance of the AZAZEL myth serves as a call for responsible innovation and global collaboration. It is possible, with great effort, to overcome the issues, and proactive technology is still worth fighting for. The story of AZAZEL challenges us to consider the consequences and to promote well-being. As such, knowledge and power come with great responsibility, and we must use them to uplift all of humanity, not just a select few. AZAZEL's story continues to resonate because we must always improve technology. Therefore, the myth of AZAZEL challenges humanity to come together to create a globalized community and what sacrifices it will take. Is humanity capable of uniting to develop technology for the common good? Even when proactive steps are taken to ensure that technology benefits humanity, significant challenges persist. We've explored the difficulties of global collaboration and the ethical dilemmas that arise, but these external obstacles often overshadow a more fundamental issue: the need for a shift in ideology. To truly harness technology for good, we must address the deeply ingrained beliefs and values that shape our relationship with it. This leads us to a critical question: what fundamental shifts in thought could promote the responsible and beneficial use of technology? It's not merely about developing better algorithms or more efficient energy sources, but about cultivating a new mindset, one that prioritizes human flourishing, social justice, and environmental sustainability. This requires more than just technological solutions. It demands that we confront some of our most deeply held beliefs about the role of technology in our lives and in society as a whole, confronting cultural norms that often go unexamined. Throughout history, movements and ideologies have sought to transform society for the better, each offering a unique vision of how to achieve a more just and equitable world. The Enlightenment, with its emphasis on reason, individual rights, and the pursuit of knowledge, spurred revolutions in science, politics, and social thought. The Renaissance, a period of renewed interest in classical art, literature, and philosophy, fostered a spirit of creativity and innovation that transformed European culture. The scientific revolution, marked by groundbreaking discoveries in astronomy, physics, and biology, challenged traditional beliefs and paved the way for modern science and technology. These movements succeeded in part by directly addressing the cultural values of their time, emphasizing the power of reason and challenging established norms. Communism, on the other hand, largely failed in its goals due to its totalitarian nature and a lack of individual freedoms. Proactive technology requires scientific integrity and open-source software to encourage growth, rather than hinder it. How can technology be used to promote intellectual integrity and individual freedoms? Decentralization, for example, holds immense potential to distribute power and promote greater participation in technology development and governance. Blockchain technology, with its ability to create decentralized systems of finance, identity, and governance, offers a glimpse into a future where individuals have more control over their data, assets, and decision-making processes. Open-source principles can foster collaboration, transparency, and innovation in technology development. Linux, an open-source operating system, has revolutionized the tech industry by providing a free and customizable alternative to proprietary software. Furthermore, universal basic income, UBI, could alleviate poverty and inequality in a world increasingly shaped by automation and artificial intelligence. Pilot programs and experiments with UBI have shown promising results, suggesting that it could provide a safety net for workers displaced by technological change. But beyond these specific initiatives, it's crucial to address the underlying cultural values that shape our relationship with technology. If a society values freedom, technology can be developed and deployed in ways that reflect and reinforce that value. Consider decentralized autonomous organizations, DAOs, which are emerging as a new form of governance and economic organization. DAOs are used to fund scientific research, manage decentralized social media platforms, and govern online communities, empowering individuals to make collective decisions without centralized control. Open-source hardware is democratizing access to technology and promoting local manufacturing. Open-source 3D printers, for example, are enabling individuals and communities to create their own customized tools, devices, and products, fostering self-sufficiency and innovation. Blockchain-based identity systems are empowering individuals with greater control over their personal data. Self-sovereign identity, SSI, technologies are designed to protect privacy and prevent identity theft by allowing individuals to manage and share their data without relying on centralized authorities. Furthermore, publicly funded research can be used by many, increasing the speed of technological advancement. The Internet, for example, was largely developed with government research. The Nordic countries, with their strong emphasis on equality and social welfare, demonstrate the impact of these ideological shifts. Their investment in education, healthcare, and social safety nets has created a society where technology is used to improve the lives of all citizens. However, could decentralization lead to greater efficiency and innovation, or could it lead to chaos and fragmentation? Could these shifts create a more equitable and sustainable world, or could they exacerbate existing inequalities and environmental problems? The broader implications of these shifts for our understanding of knowledge, power, and responsibility are profound. How can we ensure that technology empowers all people, not just a privileged few, and that it is used to create a better future for all? Furthermore, culture is a key component of technological development. A culture drives the types of technology that is adopted, and so a culture that does not value equality will develop technology that is unequal. These proactive technologies require a shift in ideology. Shifting our cultural framework can allow technology to be used for good, but how can we ensure that these shifts become widespread? However, even with these new shifts, what role can individuals play in helping technology? It will take time and commitment to create effective change in our cultures. However, many believe that it is unrealistic to expect people to change their deeply held beliefs. Some argue that human nature is inherently resistant to change, and that people are unlikely to embrace new ideologies, especially when those ideologies challenge their existing values or self-interests. They may also believe that these shifts would require a loss of freedom and individuality, arguing that collective decision-making and shared resources would stifle innovation and creativity. What if a dictatorship could guide the development of technology more efficiently than a decentralized democracy? Dictatorships have long been known to stifle innovation and lead to horrific ends, but what if a benevolent dictator were able to effectively develop proactive technology? Others may also be unwilling to change their ways due to long-term harm caused by revolutions. Despite these counterarguments, the enduring relevance of the AZAZEL myth serves as a call for innovation and cultural shifts. While difficult and potentially dangerous, cultural shifts are required to make good use of technology. The role of leadership must be understood to change culture, allowing knowledge and power to uplift all of humanity, not just a select few. As such, the myth of AZAZEL challenges humanity to change and to become a better version of itself. Technology must be created through cultural shifts. Is it possible for humanity to change in time to avoid a dark fate with technology? But even with these shifts, what role can individuals play in ensuring that technology is used for good? We've explored global solutions and ideological transformations, but are they enough? What if the most critical element is the ethical compass of each and every person involved in the creation and deployment of technology? Even with top-down planning, the road to technological utopia is paved with unforeseen challenges, ideological conflicts, and ethical quagmires. But what if the key to positive change lies not in grand schemes, but in the actions of individuals? We now turn to the power of individual action and how one person, armed with moral courage and a commitment to positive change, can alter the course of technology's development. Throughout history, individuals have defied seemingly insurmountable odds to ignite movements and transform societies. Rosa Parks, by refusing to give up her seat on a bus, sparked the Montgomery bus boycott and galvanized the civil rights movement. Her singular act of defiance became a symbol of resistance against racial segregation and inspired countless others to join the fight for equality. One person can change a culture, like when Harriet Beecher Stowe wrote Uncle Tom's Cabin, a novel that reached millions and shifted public opinion against slavery, contributing to the momentum that eventually led to its abolition. Even in the realm of science, individuals have shaped the world for the better. Jonas Salk, driven by a desire to eradicate polio, developed the first effective polio vaccine, saving countless lives and paving the way for the near eradication of this devastating disease. Similarly, Edward Snowden, at great personal risk, exposed government surveillance programs, sparking a global debate about privacy and civil liberties in the digital age. These individuals, through their courage and conviction, demonstrate the transformative power of individual action. But how does one person affect such large change? The answer lies in moral courage, the willingness to stand up for what is right, even in the face of adversity. It is the inner strength that enables individuals to challenge injustice, defy authority, and advocate for positive change. Moral courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it, exemplified by activists chaining themselves to trees to prevent deforestation, knowing they risk arrest and ridicule. This courage fuels activism, the concerted effort to bring about social or political change. Activism takes many forms, from protesting and public speaking to lobbying and grassroots organizing. It's about raising awareness, mobilizing support, and pressuring those in power to take action. Contacting representatives, signing petitions, and boycotting unethical companies are all tools of the activist, driving public discourse and impacting policy decisions. Coupled with these methods is education, the dissemination of knowledge, and the cultivation of critical thinking skills. Education empowers individuals to understand complex issues, form informed opinions, and become active participants in shaping the world around them. It is through these means that technology can be developed in a responsible and ethical manner. Consider Greta Thunberg, a young climate activist who has galvanized global action on climate change. Her passionate speeches and unwavering commitment have inspired millions, particularly young people, to demand climate action. Her youth and determination challenge the complacency of older generations and underscore the urgency of addressing climate change. Malala Yousafzai, a Pakistani activist who was shot by the Taliban for advocating for girls' education, is another example of individual courage and resilience. Surviving the assassination attempt, she has become a global symbol of the fight for education and women's rights, inspiring countless girls to pursue their dreams. Bill Gates, through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, has dedicated his vast wealth and resources to solving global problems, particularly in the areas of health and development. Their enormous resources have been given to fighting disease, with the goal to eradicate polio across the globe. Linus Torvalds, a Finnish software engineer, created Linux, an open-source operating system that has revolutionized the tech industry. His creation has become a foundational element of modern computing, powering everything from smartphones to supercomputers. A local activist successfully fighting for a new community center can also dramatically change the environment of a small community. The power of individuals must not be overlooked. However, it is important to acknowledge the challenges individuals face when trying to create change. People may dismiss one individual's concerns. The impact of one person's actions may be limited. The opposition may be too powerful. Despite these challenges, individual efforts can combine to create larger social change. A single voice may be amplified by others, and a small act of defiance may spark a wider movement. Many people with the same idea, all pushing towards the same goal, may be more effective than a single person. Each person can affect others and create a ripple effect. With this comes a great responsibility, and individuals must follow a strong ethical code to avoid causing harm to others, even in the pursuit of change. In essence, by focusing on the power of the individual and with shifts in ideology, technology will be in good hands. But how does this relate to AZAZEL? Did AZAZEL want humanity to rise and become more, or was he just trying to doom humanity? With this understanding, AZAZEL's gift may not have been a curse at all, but instead an act of necessary rebellion. It is a common view that individuals cannot create change, arguing that one person cannot fight big systems, but this is not true. It is also commonly accepted that some people are inherently bad, and this may be true as well, and it is important to acknowledge that not everyone has good intentions. Some may also believe that individuals cannot solve collective problems. Individuals taking action will not reverse the trends of climate change, but governments and global organizations can. A fine line exists between being a hero and a villain, and an activist can become a terrorist under a certain view. These all may be true, but this should not stop anyone. Despite these counterarguments, the enduring relevance of the AZAZEL myth serves as a call for innovation. The world can be changed, and it requires work for more people to get involved with technology's long-term vision. Knowledge and power come with great responsibility, and we must use them to uplift all of humanity, not just a select few. The individual must exist to create cultural change. If humanity is not capable of understanding technology, it will fall into the same trap as the myth of AZAZEL. The individual's path is not easy, but if humanity does not rise to the challenge, it will doom itself. Is humanity capable of facing this challenge? As we consider the potential of individuals to revolutionize technology, one question remains. Was AZAZEL's gift an intentional push towards human evolution or an act of reckless endangerment? The relevance of the AZAZEL myth to contemporary issues lies not in the divine or demonic, but in the choices made by individuals. Now we must shift our focus to examine how AZAZEL's actions and motivations, whether benevolent or malevolent, reflect the individual choices we face today in a world increasingly shaped by technology. Perhaps AZAZEL did not doom humanity to a life of complex problems, but instead gifted it the ability to choose its own destiny, a power that came at a great cost. To truly understand AZAZEL's actions, we must first explore the historical context and background surrounding his figure. In some traditions, AZAZEL is seen as a tempter, a demonic figure who led humanity astray, while in others, he's viewed as a scapegoat, a figure unjustly blamed for humanity's sins. Still others consider him a hero, a bringer of knowledge and progress. Different theologians have offered varying interpretations, some casting him as a fallen angel who corrupted humanity, while others see him as a divine being who helped liberate humanity from a restrictive God. Some scholars even argue that AZAZEL was deliberately misunderstood, and that the Book of Enoch, a primary source for his story, is biased against him. They suggest that his intentions were to help humanity, but because his actions went against the established divine order, he was branded as evil. It is essential to remember the importance of viewing ancient figures without modern bias. Warfare was much more commonplace, and the survival of one's tribe often depended on skill at arms, making the gift of weaponry perhaps not as intrinsically evil as it might seem today. Before we can properly evaluate the figure of AZAZEL, we must define what it means to look at him with a proper perspective. Perspective is the lens through which we view the world, shaped by our experiences, beliefs, and values. Changing perspectives is crucial when viewing figures from history and mythology, because it allows us to understand their actions within the context of their own time and culture, rather than judging them by modern standards. Ancient traditions saw the world differently, often emphasizing survival, honor, and loyalty to one's tribe or community above all else. We must also understand the nature of technological development. Technology itself is neither good nor bad, but a tool that can be used for both constructive and destructive purposes. The development of nuclear energy, for instance, has provided a clean and efficient source of power, but also the means to create weapons of mass destruction. Human desires, too, are not inherently evil. Humans naturally want more, to improve, and to learn, and these desires are often the driving force behind technological innovation. It is through this understanding that we can expand and consider the decisions AZAZEL made. He may not have fully known the long-term outcome of gifting technology, but his intentions might have been driven by a desire to improve the human condition as he understood it. To properly examine the legend of AZAZEL, it's essential to consider specific examples from different perspectives. Looking at his gifts, such as metallurgy and weaponry, we can see that they weren't inherently evil to give to humanity. Metalworking could be used to create tools for farming and construction, while weapons could be used for defense against predators or hostile tribes. Looking at his decision to ignore God, we must consider the possibility that the deity was wrong, or that his rules were too restrictive for human progress. Perhaps AZAZEL saw the potential for humanity to evolve beyond its divinely ordained limitations. Considering his ultimate fate, we see that he was punished for his actions, but he may have felt that his gifts to humanity were worth the personal sacrifice. He may have believed that even with the risks and potential for misuse, the benefits of knowledge and technology outweighed the cost of his own suffering. And finally, these examples show that humans aren't inherently evil, but influenced by their choices and the environment around them. AZAZEL allowed humans to choose their own path, for better or worse, and that choice is what ultimately defines their destiny. Moreover, AZAZEL's impact can be seen in the modern world by connecting each of his gifts to technology. He gifted metallurgy, and now humans can construct buildings and manufacture complex machinery. He taught humans how to create weapons, and while this has led to warfare, it has also driven innovation in fields such as engineering and materials science. We can even find evidence that even a punished figure can inspire generations. Lucifer and other figures continue to inspire people today, challenging authority and pushing the boundaries of knowledge. Analyzing AZAZEL's actions in the context of human evolution and technological advancement, we must ask ourselves, did AZAZEL ultimately help or hurt humanity? Did he set us on a path towards progress and enlightenment, or did he unleash forces that will ultimately lead to our destruction? Whether AZAZEL should be viewed as a villain or hero is a question that continues to be discussed to this day. Some see him as a cautionary tale, a reminder of the dangers of forbidden knowledge, while others see him as a symbol of human potential and the courage to challenge the status quo. Our modern perceptions are deeply influenced by AZAZEL. Without him, perhaps technology would not be where it is today, or perhaps another figure would have taken his place. However, in this world, we must look to AZAZEL to ensure our choices are good for the survival of our species. Ultimately, our view of AZAZEL boils down to perspective. As we judge the actions of historical figures, we must consider the context of their time and the potential motivations behind their choices. But if AZAZEL's actions were a gift and not a curse, is our role to embrace the gifts and ignore his fate? Is our role to struggle to grow and understand technology, or are we doomed to misuse this knowledge and destroy ourselves? Perhaps this burden is a blessing, and we need to look at it from a new perspective. However, we must acknowledge the traditional view that AZAZEL was a tempter and a demon. To many people, he is still viewed as evil, a figure who led humanity astray and deserves eternal punishment. We must also address the idea that humanity was doomed from the start, and it does not matter what AZAZEL did. Some argue that humanity is inherently flawed and will always find a way to destroy itself, regardless of the knowledge or technology it possesses. We must also consider the possibility that technology will ultimately destroy humanity. Many fear that artificial intelligence, for instance, will eventually surpass human intelligence and lead to our extinction. And finally, we must acknowledge the point that we can't know the right answer. Perhaps we will never know if AZAZEL was good or bad, or if his actions were ultimately beneficial or detrimental to humanity. Despite these counterarguments, the enduring relevance of the Azazel myth serves as an inspiration for individual growth and a call to action to decide what is evil or good. The story of Azazel reminds us that knowledge and power come with great responsibility, and we must use them to uplift all of humanity, not just a select few. Azazel's role reminds us that individuals must influence others to create a better future. Despite the difficulties and uncertainties, our chance at evolution hinges on individual choice. Azazel may have given humanity technology, but he also gifted it the right to choose its destiny. If individuals are to guide technology for the betterment of humanity, we must ask, are we, as a species, cursed to always struggle with the unintended consequences of our own innovation? It is a question that cuts to the heart of our potential and our limitations, forcing us to confront the possibility that our greatest achievements may also be our undoing. But what if this perceived curse is, in fact, a gift in disguise, a necessary catalyst for growth and evolution? Perhaps humanity's constant struggle is a challenge to overcome, a method of culling bad traits, or a necessary step on the path to true progress. To understand this complex dynamic, we must delve into the historical context of humanity's relationship with technology, a relationship fraught with both promise and peril. From the ancient Greeks, who warned against hubris in their myths of Icarus and Prometheus, to the present day, where we grapple with the ethical implications of artificial intelligence and genetic engineering, the tension between innovation and responsibility has been a recurring theme. Consider the myth of Sisyphus, forever doomed to roll a stone up a hill only to have it fall back down. This could be seen as a reflection of the futility of human endeavor, forever chasing progress only to be thwarted by our own shortcomings. However, it could also be seen as a test of human resilience, a symbol of our ability to persevere in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds. Past eras of intense innovation, such as the Bronze Age, have also led to struggle and strife. The discovery of bronze, while enabling advancements in tools and weaponry, also ushered in an era of warfare and social upheaval, forever changing the course of human history. Consider, too, the role of population bottlenecks, periods in history where the human population dwindled to near extinction due to environmental disasters or self-inflicted crises. It is as if humanity grows to a point where it nearly destroys itself, like a virus consuming its host, only to be reborn and begin the cycle anew. But what does it mean to speak of a curse in this context, and how can such a concept be seen as a potential gift? A curse, in its simplest form, is a pronouncement of ill fortune, a sentence of suffering or misfortune. However, a curse can also be a test of strength, a trial by fire that forces us to confront our limitations and push beyond them. Consider humanity's inherent need for knowledge. Is this a gift to always strive for more, or a curse to constantly strive? From the moment we are born, we are driven by an insatiable curiosity, a desire to understand the world around us and our place within it. This thirst for knowledge has propelled us to create incredible technologies, from the printing press to the internet, but it has also led us down dangerous paths, such as the development of weapons of mass destruction. A simple perspective shift changes the nature of the curse. Viewing the snake in the Garden of Eden as offering a great gift, rather than as a tempter leading humanity astray, is one such perspective shift that can open our minds. If Adam and Eve had not eaten from the tree of knowledge, they would have remained in a state of blissful ignorance, forever trapped in a paradise devoid of understanding and growth. This suggests that the curse of knowledge is not a punishment, but a catalyst for evolution, a necessary step on the path to self-awareness and enlightenment. What does this suggest about the future of technology? Will the curse continue to plague us, or will humanity rise above it, harnessing the power of innovation for the greater good? To support the notion that technology is both a curse and a gift, let us examine specific examples. Advanced medicine, while extending lifespans and eradicating diseases, has also contributed to population issues and environmental pollution, placing a strain on our planet's resources. The quest for ever faster computers, while driving innovation in countless fields, causes great environmental harm through the mining of rare earth minerals and the consumption of vast amounts of energy. Weaponry, while providing a means of defense and deterrence, inevitably leads to more violence and destruction. However, each of these curses can also be seen as a gift, a challenge that forces us to find creative solutions and strive for a better future. The need to struggle has forced humanity to build better medicine. Technology is being developed to help the environment, and there is a push for peace around the world. Consider the story, The Gift of the Gods, in which humanity is given all their struggles, but these struggles are seen as a gift that forges strength and resilience. What is the significance of this duality? How can we reconcile the destructive potential of technology with its capacity for good? It boils down to perspective and, more importantly, to choice. Both the curse and the gift are necessary for technological advancement. One drives innovation, while the other forces us to consider the ethical implications of our actions. But is humanity capable of understanding its own curse and creating a gift? The continued discussion surrounding Azazel's role suggests that we are grappling with this very question. Without him, perhaps technology would not be where it is today, or perhaps another figure would have taken his place. But the fundamental tension between innovation and responsibility would still exist. Ultimately, our view of Azazel and our approach to technology boils down to how we can look to Azazel to ensure our choices are good for the survival of our species, not just in the short term, but for generations to come. Azazel may have provided humanity with a curse, but perhaps also a gift. It boils down to how humanity chooses to react. But what does this mean for the future, for our story, and for you? What will happen when humanity finally understands its gift and its curse? We have the knowledge, but what will we do with it? However, we must acknowledge the counterarguments to this optimistic view. It can be argued that technological progress is inevitable, that it will happen regardless of what humans try to do. The Earth will be destroyed eventually, it's just a matter of time. Perhaps we are not meant to live forever, and nature will simply take its course. Perhaps our attempts to do good will be ultimately useless, that humanity making a utopia is unlikely. Despite these counterarguments, the enduring relevance of the Azazel myth and the questions it raises about technology and human nature emphasizes the enduring relevance of the Azazel myth. Even if we cannot win in the long run, we must continue to struggle, to strive for a better future, even in the face of overwhelming odds. Humanity has the ability to make choices, and so must do so. Ultimately, Azazel and technology continue to transform us, no matter what, but we must remember that our choices will define our species forever. If individuals are to use technology wisely, we must also consider the cost of the freedom that allows such innovation to flourish. Individual action is what makes technology useful to humanity. But what does individual freedom truly mean for the choices humanity must make in relation to technology, and how does this relate to the myth of Azazel? Can the story of Azazel suggest a path forward or a warning to be heeded? But did Azazel make a wise choice in gifting humanity with such potent knowledge, or did he doom us to an endless cycle of struggle and strife? To understand the role of individual freedom, we must consider the Age of Enlightenment and the shift from tyrannical rule that defined that era. Key figures like John Locke and Jean-Jacques Rousseau championed the rights of the individual, arguing for governments that served the people, not the other way around. The American and French revolutions, fueled by these Enlightenment ideals, demonstrated the power of individual action to overthrow oppressive regimes and establish societies based on liberty and equality. The Renaissance also showcases this connection between innovation and freedom. Advancements in freedom have almost always coincided with periods of intense innovation, as individuals are empowered to pursue their ideas and challenge established norms. When people are allowed to think for themselves, society progresses. However, freedom can also be taken advantage of, leading to anarchy and chaos if not tempered with responsibility and a respect for the rights of others. The struggle to protect individual rights and freedoms is ongoing, with many countries around the world still lacking basic freedoms of speech, assembly, and religion. The struggle to maintain freedom can be just as important as obtaining it. It's an active battle. In the context of societal benefit, individual freedom can be defined as the right to make choices and express oneself without undue interference from the state or other individuals, but with the responsibility to allow the same freedom to others. Freedom, in this sense, must be for all, not just a privileged few. What, then, is technology's role in individual freedom? The Internet, for example, allows for unprecedented freedom of expression and connection, enabling individuals to share their ideas, organize movements, and access information from around the world. But this freedom also comes with risks. The government, in its quest to provide security, may track your location, monitor your communications, and censor online content, sacrificing individual freedom in the name of safety. What does this mean for society as a whole? A population with too much freedom may descend into chaos because it has forsaken the chance at connection to others, while a population with too little freedom may become stagnant and oppressed. The balance is difficult and requires constant vigilance and a willingness to defend individual rights. It is a tightrope walk to the future. There are many examples that display the benefit of individual freedom. Countries that encourage freedom of expression and innovation, such as the United States and Switzerland, tend to be more prosperous and technologically advanced than those that stifle dissent and creativity. The free sharing of ideas and open collaboration has led to countless breakthroughs in science, medicine, and engineering, improving the lives of billions of people. Societies that are more free are also more wealthy, as individuals are incentivized to work hard and create value when they know they will be able to reap the rewards of their efforts. However, there are also examples that display the risks of individual freedom. The lack of robust societal programs and safety nets in some countries can leave individuals vulnerable to poverty, illness, and exploitation. Some people use their freedom to harm others through violence, hate speech, and other forms of antisocial behavior. In political theory, individual liberty is often seen as the ultimate goal. On Liberty, by John Stuart Mill, for example, argues that individual freedom is essential for the progress of society, as it allows for the free exchange of ideas and the development of individual character. The value of individual freedom can thus lead to both the elevation and destruction of society. A society that prioritizes individual freedom may experience rapid technological innovation and economic growth, but it may also suffer from increased inequality, social fragmentation, and environmental degradation. A focus on technological innovation may come at the expense of social cohesion and environmental sustainability. How does individual freedom play into the myth of AZAZEL? By gifting humanity with forbidden knowledge, did AZAZEL empower individuals to chart their own course, or did he unleash a force that would ultimately consume them? What does that mean for knowledge? Our modern perception of freedom is often shaped by our own experiences and values. Do we value safety or freedom more? It is a question that each individual must answer for themselves, and the answer may vary depending on their circumstances. Did AZAZEL promote individual freedom by gifting humanity with technology? By releasing knowledge to others, he seemingly declared that all humans should be free to explore the possibilities of innovation, regardless of the potential risks. It is a question that has been debated for centuries, and there is no easy answer. So individual freedom is powerful, but not without cost. But was AZAZEL's choice the right one for humanity? Has humanity doomed itself by embracing the freedom to pursue knowledge and innovation without limits? Perhaps this gift has changed everything, for better or for worse. However, we must acknowledge the view that most humans cannot be trusted with freedom and need to be controlled for their own good. There will always be bad actors who will use their freedom to harm others, and some argue that a strong state is necessary to maintain order and protect the vulnerable. We cannot be perfectly free, as there will always be a need for some degree of social control to prevent chaos and ensure the safety of the community. Perhaps humanity is too far gone, that it's too late for us to steer the ship and avoid the inevitable consequences of our actions. And even if we are free, is there really no cost? There must be consequences for one's actions, and some argue that freedom without responsibility is a recipe for disaster. Despite these counterarguments, the enduring relevance of individual action cannot be denied. Humans still must effect change, even in the face of seemingly insurmountable obstacles. The myth of Azazel serves as a constant reminder of the choices we face and the responsibility that comes with freedom. It's our choice to make the curse a gift or to allow it to consume us. The actions he took were a gift, even if they also carried a heavy price. As it stands, humanity has the choice to make the curse a gift, the gift of individual freedom. But what if the gift is more of a test than a gift? Was Azazel's gift to humanity a blessing or a curse? We've explored how individual freedom, spurred by forbidden knowledge, can lead to innovation, but also to potential chaos. Now we must ask if Azazel inadvertently doomed humanity by granting us the tools for our own destruction, or if this gift holds the key to a future we cannot yet imagine. Perhaps, as the story of Azazel suggests, humanity must evolve or be destroyed. Prepare yourself, for the answer is not comforting. Throughout mythology and folklore, we find the concept of divine bargains, gifts bestowed upon humanity by deities or supernatural beings, but always at a price. Consider the story of King Midas, who wished that everything he touched would turn to gold. His wish was granted, but he soon realized the devastating consequences when he couldn't eat or drink. This tale serves as a cautionary reminder that even seemingly beneficial gifts can have unforeseen and detrimental costs. History is replete with similar shifts in power, for better or worse. The invention of the printing press, for example, democratized knowledge and spurred the Renaissance, but also fueled religious wars and political upheaval. Such power is often a double-edged sword. There have been moments in history where humanity could have chosen a different path, where the brakes could have been applied to certain advancements. The development of the atomic bomb during World War II is a prime example. Scientists recognized the potential for unimaginable destruction, and some even argued against its use. Yet the momentum of war and the allure of ultimate power proved too strong to resist. The result was the devastation of Hiroshima and Nagasaki and the dawn of the nuclear age, forever changing the landscape of global politics and warfare. This decision may haunt us for generations to come. As Darwin showed, nature selects the best. If species do not continue to grow and adapt, they are replaced. Is humanity any different? In this context, understanding the concept of a population bottleneck becomes crucial. A population bottleneck occurs when a species experiences a drastic reduction in its numbers, often due to environmental disasters, disease, or other catastrophic events. The survivors then carry only a fraction of the original population's genetic diversity, making the species more vulnerable to extinction. The attributes needed for long-term survival in such a scenario include adaptability, resilience, and the ability to cooperate and innovate. But does humanity possess these attributes? Humanity's power lies in our ability to shape our own destiny. Unlike other species that are largely at the mercy of their environment, we have the capacity to anticipate future challenges, develop solutions, and even alter the course of evolution. Technology is an inherent part of humanity, deeply intertwined with our identity. From the earliest stone tools to the latest advances in artificial intelligence, humans have always been tool users, constantly striving to improve our lives and overcome our limitations. This drive to create and innovate is what sets us apart, but it also carries immense responsibility. What does this mean for the future? Humanity must continue to grow, adapt, and evolve. We must push the boundaries of knowledge and technology, but we must also be mindful of the potential consequences of our actions. To remain stagnant is to invite decline and eventual extinction. Yet, unchecked growth and reckless innovation could lead to our own self-destruction. The path forward is fraught with peril, and the choices we make today will determine the fate of generations to come. There is evidence that technology can help push humanity through a population bottleneck. Advances in agriculture, for example, have enabled us to grow more food with fewer resources, sustaining a larger population than ever before. Medical technology has eradicated diseases, extended lifespans, and improved the quality of life for billions of people. Furthermore, technology can help us sustain life in difficult environments, from underwater habitats to space stations, opening up new possibilities for exploration and colonization. In this context, technology has been a boon. However, without technology, humanity is at risk of harm. Without modern medicine, diseases like smallpox and polio would still be rampant, killing millions each year. Without advanced warning systems, natural disasters like hurricanes and tsunamis would claim countless lives. Technology provides a buffer against the harsh realities of the natural world, protecting us from the forces that would otherwise decimate our numbers. This shows the value of technology. Science fiction, often dismissed as mere fantasy, offers textual examples of humanity's potential. Star Trek, for instance, envisions a utopian future where humanity has overcome poverty, disease, and war, uniting to explore the galaxy and seek out new life and new civilizations. Other utopian futures, such as those depicted in Ian M. Banks' Culture series, showcase societies where technology is used to create abundance and freedom for all. Are such futures possible? But what if humanity fails? What if our technology leads to our extinction? Was AZAZEL wrong to give us this knowledge? Perhaps. However, technology also holds the potential to help humanity overcome these dangers, making us more resilient and adaptable. For example, geoengineering technologies could potentially mitigate the effects of climate change, while asteroid defense systems could protect us from catastrophic impacts. But this technology only exists because of past innovation. If humanity succeeds in overcoming these challenges, would that make AZAZEL right? Perhaps this push was needed for the next step in our evolution, forcing us to confront our limitations and strive for something greater. However, success is not guaranteed. The choices we make today will determine whether we realize our potential or succumb to our own destructive tendencies. What choices are needed to get there? Ethical considerations must guide the development and deployment of new technologies, and international cooperation is essential to address global challenges like climate change and pandemics. So, humanity is in a difficult situation, facing a critical juncture in its history. We have the knowledge and the tools to create a better future, but we also possess the capacity for self-destruction. Given all of this, what should we learn from the story of AZAZEL? How can this myth be applied to our current circumstances? This reflection may very well improve our future. It's important to acknowledge the view that humanity is not special, that we are simply another species destined to be replaced by something else. From this perspective, there is no inherent meaning to our existence, and our struggles are ultimately futile. Furthermore, we could argue there is no way to know what the right choices are. Therefore, we shouldn't worry about technology, and we can just let it be. Another counterargument would be that AZAZEL never existed, that he is merely a figure from ancient myths that we should ignore. We can never truly know the past. Perhaps science fiction should not be taken seriously and is just nonsense. Despite these counterarguments, the enduring relevance of the AZAZEL myth and the need for responsible innovation cannot be denied. Even if our efforts are ultimately futile, we should still strive to create a better future for ourselves and for generations to come. We must use our gifts wisely, guided by the lessons of the past and a deep sense of responsibility for the well-being of all humanity. The actions he took were a gift, even if they also carried a heavy price. As it stands, it is up to humanity to find a method to rise above its own curse and create a gift to allow future survival. Only with all this knowledge can an informed decision be made. Was Azazel's gift of knowledge a catalyst for growth or a stepping stone to oblivion? As we consider the power of individual action and analyze the nature of Azazel's offering, a more pressing question emerges. Is humanity capable of wielding such power responsibly, or are we hurtling towards self-destruction, guided by the very tools meant to elevate us? The story of Azazel, viewed through this lens, may not be one of salvation or damnation, but a trial by fire, to determine if humanity deserves its place in the cosmos, or if it is destined to fade away, another failed experiment in the vast laboratory of the universe. We must now determine if we are doomed because of this, or if there is a future. Prepare to face the uncomfortable truth, for the answer may be more complex than we initially imagined, and perhaps the fate of humanity hangs in the balance. Throughout history, pivotal figures have emerged, promising to lead humanity to new heights, only to be met with disappointment or even tragedy. Consider Alexander the Great, whose military genius forged an empire spanning continents, yet died young, his empire fractured, his dreams of further conquest unfulfilled. He brought glory, but also endless war, and his vision died with him. Similarly, many revolutionary leaders, driven by noble intentions, have unwittingly unleashed forces they could not control. Robespierre, the architect of the French Revolution's reign of terror, sought to create a society based on virtue, but instead ushered in an era of mass executions and political instability, ultimately becoming a victim of his own creation. These examples serve as stark reminders that even the most transformative actions can have unintended and devastating consequences, and that the path to progress is rarely straightforward or predictable. Good intentions alone are not a guarantee of success. Indeed, many of humanity's most groundbreaking inventions have come with a Faustian bargain, offering immense benefits while simultaneously creating new and unforeseen dangers. Nuclear power, for example, promised to revolutionize energy production, providing a clean and virtually limitless source of power. However, it also birthed the atomic bomb, a weapon capable of annihilating entire cities and threatening the very existence of civilization. The Green Revolution, while dramatically increasing food production and alleviating hunger in many parts of the world, has also led to widespread environmental degradation, soil depletion, and dependence on chemical fertilizers and pesticides. Even the Internet, hailed as a democratizing force, has become a breeding ground for misinformation, cybercrime, and social polarization, eroding trust and undermining democratic institutions. Are we strong enough to overcome these dangers? Periods of great struggle and societal change often serve as crucibles, testing humanity's resilience and adaptability. The Great Depression of the 1930s, triggered by the collapse of the global financial system, plunged millions into poverty and despair, challenging the very foundations of capitalist society. The Dust Bowl, a devastating ecological disaster that ravaged the American Midwest during the same period, displaced farmers, destroyed livelihoods, and forced countless families to migrate in search of a better life. In response to these crises, governments implemented unprecedented interventions, from Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal to the Soviet Union's collectivization policies, each with its own successes and failures, demonstrating the complex interplay between human agency and historical forces. But what would have happened if those programs didn't exist? Would things have gotten better or worse? Luck, too, often plays a significant role in shaping the course of history, with seemingly minor events or chance encounters having profound and far-reaching consequences. If Gavrilo Princip, the assassin who triggered World War I, had missed his target, the course of the 20th century might have been drastically different. If a different set of political leaders had been in power during the Cuban Missile Crisis, the world might have plunged into nuclear war. If the Spanish Armada had succeeded in invading England in 1588, the trajectory of European history would have been irrevocably altered. These what-if scenarios underscore the contingent nature of historical events, reminding us that even the most momentous outcomes can hinge on seemingly insignificant factors, and that the future is never predetermined. Does that mean we should stop trying? To understand the potential peril humanity faces, it's crucial to consider the Great Filter theory. This theory posits that there are certain evolutionary hurdles that all life-bearing planets must overcome to achieve interstellar civilization. These filters could range from the emergence of simple life to the development of complex organisms, the rise of intelligence, or the mastery of advanced technology. The unsettling implication is that one or more of these filters may be virtually impossible to overcome, and that humanity may be approaching such a filter in the form of our own technology. The use of technology may be the end for all species. This concept is further illuminated by the Fermi paradox, which questions why, given the vastness and age of the universe, we have not yet detected any other intelligent civilizations. One possible explanation is that all such civilizations have already succumbed to a great filter, self-destructing through warfare, environmental catastrophe, or some other unforeseen consequence of their own technological advancement. Perhaps the knowledge that AZAZEL gave comes with the requirement to grow up or die. This would explain why no species has been found. Perhaps there is a monster we can't see that requires us to be strong to defeat it. This brings us to a critical juncture. Do we need restrictions on knowledge and technology to safeguard ourselves, or does true progress lie in embracing freedom and innovation, even at the risk of potential self-destruction? The debate over censorship versus free speech, regulation versus deregulation, and collective security versus individual liberty reflects this fundamental tension, with no easy answers or universally applicable solutions. The balance between freedom and responsibility is a delicate one, requiring constant vigilance and a willingness to adapt to changing circumstances. But can we depend on ourselves to be good enough? The implications for human society and technology are profound. If the great filter is real, and if humanity is approaching it, then we must carefully consider the potential consequences of our actions. We must prioritize sustainability, cooperation, and ethical considerations in the development and deployment of new technologies, ensuring that they serve the long-term interests of humanity as a whole, rather than the short-term gains of a few. A fine line exists between complete freedom and enslavement to the self. However, who determines these restrictions? Evidence supporting the existence of a technological great filter abounds. Our unsustainable consumption of natural resources is depleting the planet's reserves, threatening ecosystems, and driving climate change. The environmental impact of our technologies, from pollution to deforestation to habitat destruction, is pushing the Earth systems to their breaking point. Our societal structures, characterized by inequality, conflict, and short-sighted decision-making, may be ill-equipped to address these challenges effectively. These things may limit us from growing and reaching out to the stars. Furthermore, history is replete with examples of civilizations that have crumbled due to resource depletion, environmental degradation, or internal strife, suggesting that humanity is not immune to the forces that have brought down countless societies before us. Our reliance on complex systems to sustain our lives makes us vulnerable to unforeseen disruptions, from pandemics to cyber attacks to economic collapses, any of which could trigger a cascade of failures with catastrophic consequences. Do we even know what to expect? The film Oppenheimer, for example, provides a stark and compelling textual example of the ethical dilemmas and potential for self-destruction inherent in technological innovation. The film portrays the moral burden carried by J. Robert Oppenheimer, the father of the atomic bomb, as he grapples with the devastating consequences of his creation and the potential for nuclear annihilation. His internal struggle mirrors humanity's own challenge to harness the power of knowledge while mitigating its inherent risks, and to ensure that our pursuit of progress does not lead to our own demise. Was his creation the best thing for humanity or the worst? But are our actions influenced by our own desires, and was Azazel trying to help? It is human nature to ask, but how can that be properly answered? Perhaps, even to Azazel, we are nothing but a tool. The questions that haunt us now about artificial intelligence, and if its use will cause humanity's destruction, is no different than the questions that plagued Oppenheimer. The technology to do so has evolved, and the same question rings out. This may mean that humanity is forever challenged to face the same problems. This may be why Azazel gave the gift in the first place. Was Azazel a hero? That is a question that may never truly be answered, or possibly be up to interpretation. He gave humanity the tools that were required to become what we are today. It may be for better or worse. The tools gave us the potential to grow above our origins, or simply to stagnate. The gift has forever changed us. In this context, Azazel could be seen as a cosmic liberator, freeing humanity from the constraints of ignorance and opening up new possibilities for growth and transformation, even if the path forward is fraught with peril. But is this growth real? Or is it simply a mask covering up something terrible? The modern perception of our place in the universe is one of increasing isolation and uncertainty. As we gaze out into the vast expanse of space, we see no signs of other intelligent life, no welcoming signals from distant civilizations. Instead, we are confronted with the chilling realization that we may be alone, a fragile speck of consciousness adrift in a cold and indifferent cosmos. This newfound awareness has triggered a sense of existential angst, forcing us to confront our own mortality and the precariousness of our existence, while also inspiring a renewed sense of wonder and curiosity about the mysteries of the universe. Are we unique, or are we just next? Perhaps Azazel was merely a tool used by a higher power to achieve an end. Perhaps the goal of existence has nothing to do with the survival of the individual species. No matter what, humanity will be forced to continue, forced to grow, or be destroyed. Perhaps the higher powers determined that humanity would not evolve without that push, regardless of the consequences. In this context, Azazel's actions could be viewed as a necessary catalyst, a spark that ignited the flame of human ingenuity and propelled us on a trajectory of unprecedented technological and social progress, even if that trajectory ultimately leads to our own self-destruction. So the question remains, is humanity doomed? Did we have a chance? Was Azazel right? What do all these things mean? What should we have learned from the story? As we approach the conclusion of this video and the beginning of your personal journey, we must reflect on the implications of Azazel's gift. What should the takeaway be? It's essential to acknowledge that there's no way to know for certain the long-term consequences of technology. As they evolve and expand, technology can open new doors that we may not have previously considered. Perhaps, as we evolve with technology, a new method of defense against a great filter may appear. There may be a totally unexpected solution waiting to be discovered. We must continue to be mindful of the future. Indeed, one counterargument is that technology is not inherently dangerous, and that the universe only rewards the strong and adaptable. From this perspective, humanity must embrace technology to overcome the challenges it faces, becoming a more resilient and resourceful species in the process. Those species must become strong so they can resist the things that would destroy them. Perhaps Azazel was only trying to make us stronger. Another counterargument is that there is no such thing as a great filter, and that the universe is teeming with life, each civilization finding its own path to survival and prosperity. From this perspective, humanity's fears are unfounded, and our technological advancements will ultimately lead to a brighter future for all. The universe may want all species to exist. What if the things we view as dangers are simply the next step? But do we even have the right to call technology dangerous? From this perspective, technology is an inherent part of human nature, a tool for exploration, expression, and transformation. If we don't try, we won't grow. Perhaps the pursuit of knowledge is its own reward, regardless of the potential risks involved. Is stagnation better than destruction? Despite these counterarguments, the enduring relevance of the AZAZEL myth and the need for responsible action cannot be denied. Even if the future is uncertain, we must still strive to create a better world, guided by wisdom, compassion, and a deep sense of responsibility for the well-being of all living beings. The actions he took were a gift, even if they also carried a heavy price. As it stands, and despite the challenge and potential future doom, it is up to humanity to continue our growth, guided by what we know and not to be crippled by fear. We must rise above our own curse and create a gift to allow future survival. Despite the challenges, technology's influence is our greatest test. Only with the right amount of consideration and action can humanity pass the great filter. The gift is to pass it, to get out of it, or to avoid it. Now, as we prepare to summarize what we have explored, consider, what is the price of knowledge, and is humanity willing to pay it? As humanity grapples with the seductive power of forbidden knowledge, we must learn to reconcile the dangers and wonders of technology, just as AZAZEL's gifts contain both advancement and corruption, or risk, succumbing to its darker temptations. Can humanity be saved, or is it destined to repeat its mistakes, forever teetering on the brink of self-destruction? This section will explore that question, considering the points we've discussed throughout this video, and if humanity is truly capable of making good choices, continuing towards a brighter future. It may require a profound change from every individual, a collective awakening to the responsibilities that come with wielding such power. If humanity is on board, and if it truly desires to do so, only then can it find its way through. Let us approach this with thoughtful consideration, but with a firm resolve that it can be done. Consider the pale blue dot, the photograph taken by Voyager 1 in 1990, showing Earth as a tiny, fragile speck of light suspended in the vastness of space. This image, often hailed as a symbol of human insignificance, paradoxically ignited a sense of collective responsibility as people realized the preciousness and fragility of our planet and the importance of being good caretakers of what we have. These moments of reflection, these sudden shifts in perspective, are essential for humanity's growth, offering a chance to re-evaluate our priorities, shed our petty differences, and unite in the face of existential threats. Viewing our problems from a distance, from the vantage point of the cosmos, allows us to see them in a new light, stripped of their immediate urgency, revealing their underlying causes and potential solutions. As we look to the stars, we are reminded of our shared origin, our common destiny, and the boundless potential that lies within us. Perhaps reaching out to the cosmos is humanity's destiny. Yet not all technologies are destined to endure. Self-driving cars, for example, have been proposed for years, but have yet to fully materialize, perhaps because their societal benefits are outweighed by their potential risks. What legacy will humanity leave behind? What will future generations say about us? Legacy is what humanity leaves behind, the sum total of our achievements, our failures, and our choices, etched into the fabric of time for all eternity. It is the story we tell ourselves about who we are, where we come from, and where we are going. But beyond our own planet, beyond the confines of our solar system, lies a vast and unexplored universe, teeming with possibilities and untold wonders. Is it possible that species across the cosmos might work together for survival, sharing knowledge, resources, and experiences, creating a vast network of interconnected civilizations, all striving towards a common goal? This potential for intergalactic collaboration represents a higher level of consciousness, a transcendence of petty rivalries and self-serving ambitions towards a shared vision of cosmic harmony. Can reflection change the future? The COVID-19 pandemic, a global crisis that brought the world to a standstill, forced humanity to confront its own vulnerability, its interconnectedness, and the fragility of its systems. But the pandemic also revealed our capacity for resilience, for compassion, and for collective action. As communities rallied together to support each other, scientists raced to develop vaccines, and governments implemented unprecedented measures to protect their citizens. In the long term, has it changed how we act, how we think, and how we perceive the world around us? Did Azazel's actions change how we think? Today, is he known as a hero who gave humanity the tools to grow, or as a villain who unleashed forces beyond our control? Stories of humanity's possible future are abundant in our cultural landscape. Star Trek, with its utopian vision of a united Earth exploring the cosmos in peace and cooperation, serves as a powerful example of what we could achieve if we embrace our better angels. Other science fiction stories, however, paint a far more dystopian picture, depicting humanity ravaged by war, environmental catastrophe, or technological tyranny, serving as cautionary tales of the dangers that await us if we succumb to our darker impulses. The success or failure of these visions hinges on our choices, on our willingness to confront our demons, and on our ability to harness the power of knowledge for the betterment of all. Has humanity demonstrated its ability to rally together for the common cause? The response to the COVID-19 pandemic, while imperfect, demonstrated humanity's capacity for collective action on a global scale. World War II, a conflict that engulfed the planet in flames, ultimately led to the creation of the United Nations, an organization dedicated to maintaining peace and security among nations. Even with short spikes of war, the long-term trend is a decline. In this light, we can see the potential for human cooperation in the long term. But is humanity truly on the right path? Are we going to make it as a species, or are we destined to self-destruct, fulfilling the darkest prophecies of our collective anxieties? Technology's role in our path is a double-edged sword. It has the power to elevate us to new heights of prosperity, understanding, and connection, but it also has the power to destroy us, unleashing forces that we cannot control. The choices we make today, the investments we prioritize, and the values we uphold will determine whether technology becomes a force for good or a catalyst for our own demise. How can individuals and societies work together to create a better future? It requires a fundamental shift in mindset, a recognition that our individual fates are inextricably linked to the fate of the planet, and that we must act in accordance with the long-term interests of humanity as a whole. Through cooperation, compromise, and a shared commitment to sustainability, justice, and peace, we can create a world where technology serves as a tool for empowerment, not a weapon of destruction. With these actions, it is possible to make Azazel's gift worthwhile, demonstrating that we are capable of wielding such power responsibly. Choosing to work towards a better future can rewrite his legacy, transforming him from a bringer of damnation into a catalyst for growth. So, what should all of this mean for you? How can we use these lessons to change our world? A lot of information has been shown, but humanity's biggest problem may be looking back instead of forward, dwelling on past mistakes instead of embracing future possibilities. What does that mean? Where do we go from here? Of course, some might argue that none of this matters, that life is inherently chaotic and meaningless, and that we should not waste our time worrying about how to leave things for future generations. Why bother, they might say, when the universe is indifferent to our fate? Others might argue that human nature is immutable, that we are fundamentally selfish, greedy, and prone to violence, and that no amount of technology or social engineering can change our inherent flaws. People will not be able to change. Still others might argue that the world is too complex, technology is too complicated, and the challenges we face are too overwhelming for any individual to make a difference, and that individuals will never be able to understand the complexities of AI. Despite these counterarguments, the enduring relevance of striving for a future that can be great cannot be denied. Even if the odds are stacked against us, even if the path forward is fraught with peril, we must still strive to create a better world, driven by hope, compassion, and a deep sense of responsibility for the well-being of all living beings. Our choices matter, and the actions we take today will shape the world of tomorrow. Only with the right actions can the power of humanity be unleashed. It's important to make a future that humanity will look back at with pride, a legacy worthy of our potential. We can be great, but it is up to us. What hidden truths must we uncover next to guide humanity toward a brighter destiny? But is the story of AZAZEL simply a captivating myth, or does it represent humanity's future, a predetermined path laid out before us? Perhaps the tale of AZAZEL is not just a story of the past, but a prophecy of what is to come, already written in the annals of time, leaving humanity seemingly doomed to fulfill its dark pronouncements. As we delve into this possibility, we must approach it with a sense of both inquisitive curiosity and profound concern, recognizing the weight of the implications if this myth holds a deeper, prophetic truth. Throughout history, cultures around the world have maintained similar beliefs in prophecies and visions of the future, each offering a glimpse into what may lie ahead for humanity. From the prophecies of Nostradamus to the visions of the Book of Revelation, humans have long sought to understand and interpret the signs of the times, hoping to gain insight into the unfolding of destiny. These prophecies often share common themes, such as cataclysmic events, societal upheaval, and the rise and fall of civilizations, echoing the anxieties and aspirations of different cultures across time. Some cultures even claim to possess individuals with the ability to perceive events beyond the constraints of linear time, such as telepathic people, seers, and oracles, who offer glimpses into the past, present, and future. These individuals, often revered or feared, serve as conduits for knowledge beyond the ordinary, providing insights that can guide or warn their communities. Efforts to understand and decode prophecies have been a constant throughout history, with scholars, mystics, and ordinary people alike poring over ancient texts and cryptic messages in search of hidden meanings. The Bible, for example, has been subjected to countless interpretations, with many seeking to unlock its prophetic secrets and understand its vision of the end times. Some go as far as to create their own prophecies, with varying degrees of accuracy or wild imagination. Beyond religious texts, individuals have also claimed to come from the future, offering first-hand accounts of what awaits humanity. John Titor, a figure who emerged on the internet in the early 2000s, claimed to be a time traveler from the year 2036, sharing predictions and insights about future events, capturing the imagination of many and sparking debates about the possibility of time travel. But what exactly is prophecy, and what role does it play in society? Does it serve as a guide, offering wisdom and direction for navigating the complexities of life, or is it merely a warning, a cautionary tale designed to prevent humanity from repeating past mistakes? Some believe that time itself is not linear, but rather a construct, an illusion that obscures the true nature of reality. According to this view, the past, present, and future are all happening simultaneously, existing as interconnected dimensions within a vast cosmic tapestry. Time is not something that we move through, but something that we exist within, an all-encompassing ocean where everything occurs at once. If this is the case, then prophecy is not necessarily about predicting the future, but rather about accessing knowledge that already exists, tapping into the flow of time to perceive events that have already occurred, are currently occurring, or will occur in the future. If technology is a tool to improve life, then are we destined to achieve it? How do we interpret time and technology as humans continue to develop? Because technology exists today, and because the myth describes future technology, does that mean we were always destined to arrive at this point in time? The myth of AZAZEL paints a specific picture of technology, and we, like the writers of the myth, are now more capable because of technology. Is the story not just a story, but something that is destined to happen? How could they have known what technology would look like thousands of years ago? Throughout history, there have been examples where myths have seemingly come to pass, blurring the line between fiction and reality. The story of Troy, once considered a mere legend, was later confirmed by archaeological discoveries, revealing the existence of a once-thought imaginary city. The story of Atlantis, a mythical island civilization swallowed by the sea, continues to captivate the imagination, with some believing that it represents a lost chapter in human history, an advanced society that met a cataclysmic end. Even if these stories aren't literal, these could represent real, long-forgotten societies. Perhaps there are messages within the myth to learn from, ones that we are now more able to access. Beyond historical events, myths have also seemingly predicted future technologies, showcasing humanity's innate ability to envision possibilities beyond the limits of current knowledge. Stories of flying, for example, existed long before humans were capable of constructing airplanes, demonstrating a deep-seated desire to conquer the skies and transcend earthly limitations. Tales of communication across vast distances using magical or supernatural means predated the invention of modern communication technologies, such as the telephone and the internet, suggesting a prescient understanding of the human need to connect and share information, regardless of physical barriers. In many ways, old stories and myths have foreshadowed technology. The Bible's Book of Revelation, a highly symbolic and often cryptic text, is filled with prophecies about the end times, depicting a series of cataclysmic events, divine judgments, and the ultimate triumph of good over evil. Whether these prophecies were planned, or if they are simply a reflection of the anxieties and aspirations of the time, they have had a profound influence on Western culture, shaping beliefs about the future and inspiring countless interpretations and adaptations. Were they intentional, or did the book simply speak to a human understanding? But even if the future is written, can humanity change its path? Does humanity have the option, the power to choose its own destiny, or are we merely puppets in a preordained cosmic drama? Perhaps Azazel himself, or the writers of his story, knew that these events would come to pass, recognizing the inherent tendencies of humanity and the potential consequences of wielding forbidden knowledge. In this interpretation, Azazel is not merely a tempter or a corrupter, but a tool of prophecy, a catalyst for events that were already destined to unfold. Perhaps what they are trying to say is that humanity is prone to error. What does the future hold for humanity, and how can this analysis change the course of destiny? Perhaps even our choices are already written, predetermined by forces beyond our comprehension, leaving us with the illusion of free will. But even if this is the case, a prophecy can still serve as guidance, offering insights and warnings that can help humanity navigate the complexities of life and avoid potential pitfalls. A prophecy does not need to be followed. It merely presents a possible outcome, a potential future that can be either embraced or averted. Perhaps, then, the story of Azazel can be that guidance. In light of all of this, the focus of this exploration must shift, recognizing that this is not just a video about technology, but a story about the future, one that we may already be living out. Perhaps all of this is meant to happen, destined to unfold according to a preordained plan. This leads us to a critical question. Should we, as individuals, take the Azazel test, examining our own actions and motivations to determine whether we are contributing to the fulfillment of this prophecy or actively working to create a different future? This story, then, can be one that is meant to teach, a lesson that we can use to grow and evolve, guiding ourselves toward a more enlightened path. Of course, it's also possible that prophecies mean nothing at all, and that past events merely influenced those who wrote them, with the prophecies serving only as reflections of their own anxieties and aspirations. Perhaps these ancient writers, or even alleged time travelers, were simply trying to cause fear and manipulate others, using the guise of prophecy to achieve their own selfish ends. Not every civilization writes the future. That idea may be something that only Western thought emphasizes. Perhaps only with science can things come to pass, and it is just inevitable, not a product of magic or supernatural intervention. Maybe the myths are not real at all. Despite these counterarguments, the enduring power of learning from prophecies cannot be denied. Even if the future is not predetermined, and even if prophecies are merely reflections of the past, they can still offer valuable insights into human nature, societal trends, and the potential consequences of our actions. By studying prophecies, we can gain a deeper understanding of ourselves and our world, allowing us to make more informed decisions and guide our future with greater wisdom. It is important for humanity to guide technology, and we can use these stories to that end. Perhaps AZAZEL was an effort to reach out from time to warn us. In the end, this choice is ours. The power and the choice in the current events of this species lies with those who are free, those who are capable of learning from the past and envisioning a better future. The great gift can be ours if those can learn. It's up to humanity to determine whether this is to be a great gift or a great burden, whether we will learn to use the lessons of the past or continue to fulfill this myth. As we conclude this exploration of AZAZEL and his influence on humanity's relationship with technology, it's crucial to recognize the multifaceted nature of this enduring myth. We've journeyed through ancient texts, historical interpretations, and modern-day technological dilemmas, seeking to understand the complex interplay between forbidden knowledge, human ambition, and divine will. But the path of truth is not always clear and easy, and perhaps you, like many, harbor some skepticism toward the grand pronouncements of ancient myths and their applicability to our modern lives. The story of AZAZEL is not merely a demonic myth. It's a reflection of humanity's ongoing struggle with knowledge, power, and responsibility. AZAZEL's gift of knowledge, though intended to elevate humanity, was a double-edged sword, leading to both advancement and corruption. The consequences of that gift, whether positive or negative, depend entirely on human choices and actions, both individually and collectively. Much like AZAZEL's forbidden knowledge, technology presents both incredible opportunities and profound risks. How can we learn from the myth of AZAZEL to navigate the ethical challenges of the modern world? The answer, it seems, lies in embracing individual responsibility. This isn't just about AZAZEL. It's about the fundamental human question of how we wield knowledge and power, a question that has haunted us since the dawn of consciousness. What does the story of AZAZEL tell us about the nature of free will and determinism? Are we destined to repeat the mistakes of the past, or can we create a better future, one guided by wisdom and foresight? And does this myth have power for the future, or is it just a story? Understanding the story of AZAZEL is crucial because it forces us to confront our own relationship with technology and its potential consequences. As technology continues to evolve at an exponential pace, the lessons of AZAZEL will become ever more relevant, demanding our attention and consideration. While the story of AZAZEL may seem like a cautionary tale filled with warnings and dire consequences, it's also a story of hope and possibility, a testament to human resilience and the potential for growth. Ultimately, it's up to each of us to decide how we will use the knowledge and power at our disposal, whether we will succumb to temptation or strive for enlightenment. The choice, as always, is ours. We asked a question at the beginning of this journey, and the myth of AZAZEL is a reminder that the fate of humanity rests not in the hands of gods or demons, but in our own. If you found this video thought-provoking, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Join our community of seekers as we continue to explore the hidden truths and mysteries of the universe, delving into the esoteric and the unexplained. In our next video, we'll be delving into the mysteries of Atlantis. If you're looking for content that challenges conventional thinking and explores the deeper questions of existence, this is the channel for you. See you in the next revelation.